Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are far too kind. Thank you. Y'all, we made it. We made it. After 11 years, finally made it to 100K. But why did it take so long? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I have my very, very, like, just a woman who I believe is, she's like a sister to me. Kendall St. Charles is on the line, and she has been with me on this road to 100K. Saw the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And um, I kind of want to go through a brief history, and we're going to talk about what, why it took so long. Like, shouldn't I have been at 100K? Because I see those comments all the time. Should have been at 100K. I don't know, maybe the first or second year, right? But no, there's a reason why. I also want to tell you guys, during this broadcast, at the end, I am giving away five free original pink pill courses. So let me give you the link. Give you the link. Yeah, the link is in the description box. Mods, hi Vanessa, hi Mika. The link is in the description box to apply to the contest. The contest is only going on during this live, only during this live, and then it's over. So you gotta apply for the contest, and you will be automatically entered to win the 5 original pink pills that I promised when we got to 100K. Kendall, I have been talking a lot. You guys all know who Kendall is. She doesn't need no introduction. But Hypergamy 101, thank you for the super chat. Kendall.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about this milestone? And why is it so bittersweet?
It says a lot. It says a lot, both good and bad. It's good that you have reached this, this mile marker of 100,000 subscribers. It shows that things are slowly but surely beginning to change. But on the other side, it's bad because it shouldn't have taken this long. So both things exist at the same time. And one reflects the other, right? It's good. It shows things have changed. I think 2020 had a huge impact on I think 2020 and this pandemic woke a lot of people up who prior to that didn't want to be awakened or didn't understand what was happening. So it's a sign that things are moving fast. But it's also a sign that it took too long, really, to get to the point where we were willing to wake up. It took a pandemic to wake us up. It took complete, feelings of complete terror about what's going to happen in the future. It had to be brought up front and center. If not, then we were going to continue to lollygag and drag our feet and hope for the best, live on hopium.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, I have to use that.
Well, I didn't come up with it. I've heard people say it before, but yeah, we've been snorting hopium for like years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, that is absolutely true. And so I want to kind of go through with you. Let's go down memory lane for a little bit, and let's talk about the highs and lows of this channel. You know, what's crazy is that I started this YouTube channel out of sheer laziness because I was running a blog. The blog is still up, beyondblackwhite.com. I don't really write on it anymore. I have a staff of people who write. But I was writing this blog and I was doing regular blogs. I just didn't feel like writing. I had all of these things to say, but I didn't feel like writing. So I was like, well, let me just do a video. Okay, I was just using YouTube's for, oh, thank you, Orange Cat, for the super chat. I was just using YouTube to record videos of the kids to send to the grandparents and stuff. And then I decided, well, let me just, I didn't even know I was doing. So I just had this commentary and I was like, okay, this is good. I got some feedback. And then I realized there was this whole other audience and things were chugging along really well until I was discovered by what would be later called the Black Manosphere. And also people who opposed my platform, and that could have been anybody, also discovered me on YouTube. And the amount of flack back in 2010, 2011, 2012, when the book came out, up until, what do you think, Kendall? Until like maybe, I think it's just until recently, maybe like 2018, 2019, it was tough, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely 2018. I mean, it's still tough in some ways, but compared to what was going on back then, things have gotten a lot better. But yeah, they were really, really triggered by you. They still are, as we'll talk about. They still are.
Yeah.
But back then, it was even worse, and so many Black women were not ready to hear. You know,
Yes.
so that fed the energy because the women were also very, very angry and very, very triggered by you and what you represented and what they thought you were saying, even though no matter how many times you said that's not what I'm saying,
Yes.
they wanted to find a reason to discredit what you were saying because there was other things going on. There's still other things going on.
Yeah. Yes. No, and I want to really get into that with you a little bit later because you helped me see what was going on because I couldn't understand why so many Black women were opposed to the idea of men of other races finding them attractive, finding them, wanting to date them, to marry them, and give these guys, quite frankly, some competition. To this day, I have to ask not as many Black women, but back then, pretty much all of them, why are you standing in the way of your elevation? Meaning that, do you not understand that competition is healthy in this space and that we as Black women have a unique set of challenges in which we have the lowest marriage rates, the highest divorce rates, we have a high out of wedlock rate, we pretty much all of our marriages are where we marry down, we practice hypogamy. It's very interesting because I think there's also been some trends in the femininity movement and hypergamy where these discussions are more prolific and more acceptable. The fact that the type of men that educated Black women want do not marry at the same rates as men of other races when they reach that threshold of 100K. And so I'm coming out there and saying, hey, we've got all these issues. Expand your options. And then a lot of those issues diminish. Doesn't mean it goes away, but it's simple math. You know, men always talk about it's a numbers game. So, and especially when it comes to like hooking up girls, it's like, it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. So if it's a numbers game for them, why isn't it not a numbers game for us, right? And you said something recently, and you reminded me of something. When Ralph Richard Banks came out with his book, Is Marriage for White People, that was out in 2010, he said, you know what? In particular, white men will primarily date within their race, but there are enough white men for every Black woman to date and marry that would be interested in them. Like, that would solve
He didn't just say white. He just said non-Black men. He said there are
Yeah.
enough non-Black men to date the Black women, in the United States that would be interested in dating interracially. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He didn't limit the Black. He was just saying because of the numbers, it's not that many of us. So for, you know, if you discount the women who are already partnered, women who, you know, are gay, women who have other things going on and are just not interested in partnering, that reduces the amount of Black women who, you know, are looking for partners to not a very big number when you think about it. And so, yeah, there are, you know, he said that there are, you know, enough men of all races for Black women if the Black women would be open to, you know, men of all races.
Yeah, exactly. And there was so much resistance at the time. And there were a lot of missteps that I made. So missteps that I made, like, you know, I'm an author, so my full name came out. That was the opening for people to dox me, dox my family, send letters to my home and my relatives. Just it was really like terror. I mean, it was terrorism. And what was so sad is that I know that there were a lot of Black women that were behind doing that to me. And they felt completely justified because they believed that I was somehow the enemy. While that has changed somewhat, I'm seeing that same pushback on Clubhouse.
Yeah. It's starting all over again because
it's starting all over again.
Yeah, because you're dealing with a whole new crop.
Yeah, people who hadn't even heard of me.
Right.
Kendall, what have you observed? Because, you know, you're on Clubhouse, but I know that you're thinking about disengaging from it. What have you noticed about not the women, because like you are on Clubhouse and the women really love you for the most part. They are ready. And I think Clubhouse skews to a little bit younger generation. What do you notice about the men? Tell everybody what you are learning about how the men think. Oh, Themis, thank you. It says Black men unabashedly take advantage of the stats regarding what other Black men are doing poorly, claiming themselves to be the prize. Who does that? On the backs of poor performance of other Black men. I cannot. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. So yeah, Kendall has been saying that on Clubhouse. They're using the poor performance of Black men to elevate themselves and exploit the situation. Like, why are we not talking about that? And why aren't the men mad at that? That, you know, these higher achieving Black men are using them and exploiting them to make themselves look better. Like,
well, they are. That's why there's so many factions within the manosphere.
Ah.
The lower guys, the guys with the prison records, the blue collar ones, the ones that are not as attractive, the ones without the college education, the ones who, you know, got a lot of child support, like those dudes, if you pay attention, they're always warring with the so-called educated lame, upwardly mobile. So there's factions. This is West Side Story going on inside camp too. It's not just our side that's at each other's throats. And it's always based on class.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the different classes within the demographic are fighting each other because nobody wants to be told that they don't qualify. Everybody is telling Black women choose better, but they assume when they make that bold statement that they are inherently choosable.
Right.
So they're going to always include their demographic or themselves personally in the choose better, you know, category. So nobody wants to, you know, in order to define what is valuable, since we were talking about high value this and high value that, there has to be things that are not valuable. And nobody wants to be the unvaluable one.
Right.
They always want to be the one who determines who is valuable.
So
yes. They're always fighting with each other over that too.
Yeah. And you see that happening on Clubhouse. And like, are you going to leave Clubhouse? Because I really feel like you should not. Are you going to leave immediately? Because I can tell you that us talking about, you're going to probably get like 2,000 new followers on Clubhouse right now because
they can't follow me because my account is deactivated, so you cannot find me.
Oh no. Okay. Well, we will figure out and tell the people why you decided to deactivate.
Because it's the same old thing, you know, it's the same old thing. It's the same old, you know, not shortly after I got on the app and started, you know, making videos and stuff, not videos, making rooms, which I like the app itself. I love the idea of a voice only app, you know, voice is my thing.
Yes.
So I love the idea of it. I love being able to interact with people and speak with them directly, which you're not really able to do on, I mean, now you can with the call-in shows and stuff, but when I was on Facebook and YouTube, you couldn't do that. The technology didn't really allow it that much, or at least my technologically disadvantaged ass couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Clubhouse allows you to interact with people one-on-one, and people cannot hide. You cannot lie and hide, when you're speaking directly to someone else. I like the app, I like the technology, but I do not like the nonsense. So shortly after, I started making rooms and started, I was telling the ladies to really try to avoid going into certain rooms on the app, because I was explaining to them the concept of the algorithm and how where you show up on the app is feeding an algorithm that is profiling you, and not just you, but all the other people on the app. And all the Black people are going to be funneled away from certain types of content and funneled towards others based off of what the other Black people on the app are doing. So if you're going into these booty eating rooms, I mean, they had some of the rooms on that app that Black people create, moan rooms, where they just sit in the room and moan.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they
What?
don't do it as much anymore, but when the app, when they first
Oh
started,
my God. Moan rooms.
own rooms, and they're just in there, doing simulated phone sex for free, by the way, which is absolutely ludicrous. Not
Mm.
jollies for free, but anyway, just and just the yelling and screaming, and the ADOS versus the African rooms, and just yelling. Every room that most of the rooms created by Black people on the app are about the gender war, because we
Mhm.
really don't have any other areas of life to think about or talk about.
Mhm.
Sex, gender war, submission versus leadership, just the same stupid conversations. And I'm
Right.
telling the ladies, please try to avoid, if you're really about that life, try to avoid those spaces. And I broke down why. And I was talking about Clubhouse, and the algorithm of Clubhouse as a metaphor for the algorithm of life. And just like you can't lurk in any of these rooms and think I'm here, but it doesn't count. It counts,
Mm.
right? It's being tracked.
Mhm.
And I explained to them that the technology, you're being count, like what you're doing. I explained to them the concept of time and attention as money, right? And so the app is free because you are the product, just like any other social media, technology. And the draw is to get you to spend more time and more money, more time and more attention in the app, and therefore they can monetize the app that way through advertisements or sell it or whatever. So I was explaining to them, your time and your attention is very important, so pay attention to where you're spending it. And so it got back to me that some of these silly girls got mad that some of the ladies were actually listening to me. And so
Mm.
they decided that they were going to start trying to dox the ladies who follow me. And, it was all kinds of back alley chats and conspiracies about attacking some of the ladies who follow me. And I was like, wow, we're still doing this. We're still doing this. Go find your baby daddy.
Okay.
You got all this time in the world to be trying to worry about what someone else is doing, finding their personal information. Go find him and get your ducats, ma. Like, your
Right.
priorities are just off, just off. And so it was the same thing. It was just the same energy. And it's always the women. The guys are vocal,
Yeah.
but the women are active. The women are
Yeah.
in the clandestine back alley chats, plotting and scheming. It's just so, I don't understand how a group of women who could be so resourceful in some areas be so ineffectual in others. I don't understand it.
Mhm.
So I already began to see what was happening, right? I saw what was happening. Um, but I continued to stay. And then just when I saw, I came into a room one time and you were in the room on stage, cornered by these another group of British girls. I don't know what's up with these British girls, but they were completely out of pocket and completely just out of control, disrespectful, and just.
Yeah, that was shocking.
But it's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's the same thing that is constantly happening, and it's always the women. I think for the most part, the guys are a mess, right? And they're angry and they're a mess, but we could handle them.
Mhm.
The women that make it difficult, and we've seen so many platformers, bloggers, YouTubers, content producers who were Black women centered come and go, because and all of them will tell you the reason why they left was because of what they were experiencing with the women.
Mhm.
So the women are the greatest obstacles. And I told y'all that years ago, that Black women are the greatest obstacles, present
Mhm.
the greatest obstacle to the elevation, the growth of Black womanhood. They are the ones who are always in the way.
Mhm. Yeah, and they're working in service too. them in. So that's what happened to me. I mean, what has been happening to me on Clubhouse, and something that I did, and this is a if you stop it, they will come moment, Kendall. And I was starting to tell you before we went live, but I want you to. This is a if you stop it, they will come moment. So Clubhouse is a very interesting place, but I wanted to do something a little bit different because I wanted Clubhouse to be different for me. And so I said, I want to kind of test my impressions of Black men, because I feel like YouTube has really sullied the way I think that Black men as a collective in America are. And so I came to Clubhouse with a very open mind and looking forward to making connections with all kinds of people, but particularly I wanted to challenge myself to think differently. I wanted to challenge myself to see, is this just a YouTube thing, or is this a thing? And it wasn't that I changed my message. My message has always been the same, but I was very respectful. I listened. I gave grace. I simply just was very fact and statistically and scientifically based. Everything, when we would have these discussions about the Black woman, Black man relationship dynamic, it was always based in the statistics, the facts, the research. And my goal was that I really wanted for Black men to start to, at least on Clubhouse, to see what Black women were going through. Really start to see, have some empathy, understand what our challenges are. And when I got on Clubhouse, it was again the same thing. Immediately, you hate Black men. You hate them. Why don't you just admit it? People were, telling me I need to switch, pick sides between one faction and the other. Like, are you with the exoticals, or are you not with the exoticals? Are you, do you love Black men? Do you hate Black men? And, and then they did the same thing that they did on YouTube, and they brought my family into it. And it was a woman. I remember I was having a conversation with her because listen, I am not afraid to have difficult conversations about the things that I talk about. I've been talking about this for 10 years. I know my stuff, okay? So I know the stats backwards and forwards. I know my position backwards and forwards. I've been having to explain this to people who are very hard of understanding, as HD Tutor likes to say, hard of understanding what my platform is. I've been doing this for a long time. And then they were like, well, they couldn't dispute what I was saying. And all I wanted to do was say, listen, you need to see Black women, because what's happening right now with the, quote unquote, divestment movement is that Black women are tired of not being heard by you. They're tired of your issues, their issues, their concerns, the things that they face very early on, as early as 5 years old or younger, when we talk about the adultification of Black women. Like, these are the things that Black women are facing. We want you to hear us. And instead of hearing, they lashed out. There were a few Black men who I connected with that I could count on one hand that expressed empathy, sympathy, and a desire to want to do better. But what happened, and this was as early as yesterday, what happened was that I was having this conversation with this woman who completely misunderstood me, because it's always the people who know the least about me, who have the most to say about what they think that I do. And she couldn't win the argument because I know what I know. I know what I know. Okay, this is not a feeling. This is not This is my opinion. Like these are the facts. She couldn't win that argument. So she said, you know what? Should I do the impression? You know what? You sitting up here coaching Black women, and you need to worry about your daughter. I'm sorry, I ain't trying to be mean or nothing, but you need to be worried about your daughter. Your daughter out here doing bad. You are not doing out here bad. I'm sorry, but you need to worry about, if you gonna be coaching all these women, you need to worry about your daughter. You don't need to be worried about Black women. It's always that. It's always that. And this happened under the supervision and watch of Black men who were managing the room, let her go off for at least 5 minutes without catching her. And we all know why. Because she was being in service to them. So what I noticed is that there's this triangulation that happens where the women who will work in service to them, for the women who they actually want to try to reach, they will focus their attention on them. Oh, queen, goddess, all this other stuff. The women are so hungry for any bit of acknowledgement. I call that a Scooby snack. Any bit of acknowledgement, they are willing to sell their entire souls and sell out the entire race of Black women for Scooby snacks. And that's what I saw what happened. And then they wanted to account for me and my mothering and my daughter. And I'm like, what does this have to do with my message that Black women choose character over color, and that Black women have these unique challenges that they face that other women of other races don't face in this country? What does my kid have to do with what I am saying? Does it make it any less true? Kendall, you said something recently in your last Clubhouse, and you said, there was something that you said about that. Do you remember what you said, Kendall?
I said, if we're going to use the quality and use a perfectionistic standard of motherhood to judge whether or not someone can speak up on issues affecting Black people, then all of those social justice warriors and all of those women on Clubhouse who are always storming the stage accusing people of racism, and all of the Black males who are always talking about race stuff, they don't qualify, right? Because if you're going to use good parenting, expertise in parenting as the defining characteristic for whether or not a person can speak to issues involving their demographic, then all Black people need to shut down, stop talking about racism, because perfect parents we are not. So, but it's this distraction, Chris, and I understand. Like, listen, I know how angering and frustrating and maddening it is for you to hear them make those comments about your daughter, because they're trying to hit you where you live. Those are the guerrilla warfare. And so but of course, why they're doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's the attempt to just detract. I mean, ultimately the goal is to just wear you down by attrition, plant your minds and coax you into the minefield, because they can't win on equal grounds, right? And they see what's happening in society. They see what's going on. They see things are changing, and they see a lot more women are saying, wait a minute. And so they have to make it about something flawed with you personally. But that's not unique to, Black folks. That's anybody who's ever said anything that challenges the norm, they get attacked. So this is not just you and I. This is anybody who says anything that challenges the norm. And when people really can't challenge the merits of the argument, then they start attacking the person. What qualifies you? Well, you are not a perfect this. Well, what school did you graduate from? Well, you're not all that pretty. Well, you're too short. Well, just anything. They find anything. You didn't brush your teeth last week, so you anything, and that's because they're grabbing at straws, and most people are not the sharpest tools in the shed. So it don't take much to influence them. So all they got to do is hear one silly thing about someone and they'll just latch onto it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, um, uh, yeah.
I mean, right now we have somebody who has two failed marriages talking about Black marriage, and he's like now the crowned leader of Black love and Black marriage. And it's like, but he's, while people have their, while he has his critics, I am one of them, by and large, he has been completely embraced by the Black community. And he's also being rewarded by the Black community. It's only Black women who have to be freaking perfect. And what does that, it has nothing to do with, I am not sitting up here as a parenting coach. I didn't write a book on parenting. I wrote a book about interracial relationships. Like, what? I got to be an expert in everything in order to talk about our issues? It just doesn't make sense.
Oh, I mean, and also, I mean, I told you this before, and I truly believe this. I think a lot of the issue with your daughter is I think a lot of Black women are triggered. See, we make a lot of mistakes when we're young women, between the ages probably 15 and 30. We make a lot of mistakes,
Yes.
that we cannot bounce back from, mistakes that send us on a 20, 30, 40-year detour, mistakes that change our fates, that change the fate of our lives. And very few of us have the safety nets. Very few of us have the safety nets and the kind of resources in the background that can catch us. When we make mistakes, when we're doing dumb shit in youth and arrogance and defiance against our parents and what our parents believe and what we've been taught, and we want to establish ourselves as our own identity, and we go out here and we do stuff. And for us, it costs us a lot, that learning curve. A lot of that during that time usually is when babies come. We get ourselves caught up in relationships that are not healthy, and it really pretty much sets our life track for the rest of our lives, and then also our children. And I think that there's an aspect of what's going on with your daughter here where I think there's some envy over the fact that, most of us do not grow up in situations where if we make mistakes, right? And some of them can be big. We make some big mistakes, some big, face palm type of mistakes in our youth. There's nobody to catch us. There's nobody to help us course correct. We're kind of stuck with the bed that we made. And our communities likes to tell us that. Our community says, well, you was grown, you was out here grown, so you gotta, now you made your decision, you made your bed, now lie in it. And they like to punish us with the mistakes made in our arrogance, and ignorance in youth. And a lot of times mistakes made because we weren't fully informed, we weren't raised properly, we weren't given the proper tools. When we came on our period, someone threw a maxi pad in don't come in here with no babies, but no real talk about sex, no talk about your body, nothing. So you're kind of left out there to figure it out. And then when you make the mistake, now they stand back and go, ha, see, you thought she was grown, you thought you was smarter. And they use the ramification of the poor choice as a punishment and say, well, you'll learn through the character building of this long suffering experience. But other races of people tend to try to they know that time in life for a young person is a tenuous time. It's and they tend to make mistakes. And so they catch them. How many young white kids in college, teenage years in college, ends up strung out on drugs?
Right, got to go to rehab and all kinds of stuff.
To rehab 25 times. Out of college and they're not ready. They come out of high school and they're not ready for college. They'll send them backpacking or put them in some transition program. They recognize that this is a very difficult time in a young person's life. And even with all of the resources and access, they put them in good schools, they were in good neighborhoods, they still gonna fuck up, especially in this modern society that we're in, where anxiety is high, depression is high. There's so many influences. Kids are floundering, even kids from good background, but what the difference is, they have safety nets to catch them So if they make a mistake, they have someone to kind of course correct. So you think young white girls don't get pregnant as teenagers and college students? Of course they do, but their mamas will take them to go take care of their business and make sure that they stay on the right path. And then when they decide, when they're older and they're married and they're more established, then they go ahead and start a family. Our parents will say, well, we don't believe in abortion, and that's what you get for being fast. And so, and let the child completely derail her own future as some form of lesson. About, not listening, as opposed to helping the child course correct. So I think part of what's going on with your daughter is, I think there's some envy about the fact that your daughter has the kind of safety net that is afforded to women of other demographics. Your daughter has the kind of safety net that she could make some major mistakes, and then course correct and go on right on about her life like nothing happened. And it doesn't have to completely, seal her fate. And I think that many of us we don't realize all the insidious ways in which we are triggered by stuff like that. It's not a conscious thought. Most would think, oh, nobody's thinking about that. No, you're not thinking about it, but you're picking up on the subtleties of that. And it can lead to envy that is manifested in this hypercriticality. See, you ain't no better than us.
Right.
The fact that you feel like you're on a mission to prove that Crystalline is no better than you. You're thinking Crystalline is better than you. So you're looking for anything to prove that she's not, because you're the one with the hole. You're the one with the feeling of, And so I think part of what's going on with your daughter, and the reason why they keep wanting to bring it up as some sign that you're not legitimate, that you don't have the credibility to speak on certain topics, it's really one, because they know it's going to bother you. It would bother anybody. They know you're not happy about some of the decisions that your daughter made. Most parents would not be. And so, of course, they're going to weaponize that. They want, and they want to shame her. See, the other thing is that we live in a society, we live in a culture where Black girls are extended no grace.
Yes.
And they are heavily penalized for making mistakes in youth. The boys get well, he was young, he was young, dumb, and full of cum. And so he should always get a chance, till he's 60 to grow up, to figure it out, to mature. And life owes him chance after chance. Society owes him chance after chance. We owe him chance after chance, but it's the complete opposite. The Black community uses, I said this years ago in some videos, a Puritan-like standard when it comes to its girls. And we adultify Black girls first.
Yes.
We can yell and scream about larger society, but we're the first ones to adultify Black girls by hypersexualizing them at young ages, and also by putting a whole bunch of adult responsibilities on them. They're raising kids. They're accepting so much more responsibility in the household, but they're not being prepared for actual womanhood. They're just giving womanly responsibilities. And I think we are so used to Black women not being shown any grace that Black girls are being stamped with the scarlet letter, if they make any mistakes, especially if there's sexuality attached to it.
Yes.
We're so quick to do that we ourselves as Black women become sensitive. We become judgmental of each other that way. And I think we can also be triggered at the idea that a young Black woman, a young dark-skinned Black woman at that, right, can make mistakes or can make life choices involving that area of life, sexuality, and then like a white girl be able to get up and brush it off and be like, oh, well, that was kind of dumb. I shouldn't have done that, and keep it moving. We don't like that, because we have internalized the idea that, that we are contaminated. Once something happens to you or something goes on with your body, you become contaminated forever. So we have internalized this idea of slut shaming and, the extreme Madonna whore complex ideologies. And so I think we become very judgmental towards each other that way too. I mean, the word hoe is thrown around in our community as casual language. And even I use the word, so I'm guilty of it. I think we're very, it's like, who do you think you are? Your daughter's no better than us.
Right.
I got pregnant at 15 and had a baby, and I'm shamed for it. What makes her think that she should be able to get away with, you know what I'm saying? So the reason why there's so much attack on her from the women, I think there's a lot of jealousy present in us when we see some Black girls get treated like girls.
Mm-hmm.
There's some grace extended to them, that there's a safety net present. There's people who love and who will catch them and gently redirect them or harshly critique them, but not beat them over the head and send them on a 40-year life detour as some form of punishment. I think because we experience that so much inside our community and outside of it, that we become triggered when we see another Black girl who looks like us, who's not treated that way. It's not treated so harshly.
Kendall, somebody just said, and thank you for the $10 super chat. My sister and I were discussing the Black community's narcissistic stay in a child's place culture and doesn't allow us to delineate when people get to expand and grow. No scaffolding. Yes, there's absolutely no scaffolding. That's what you were talking about. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that's part of the obsession with your daughter, is that there's a lot of different things going on, but I think Black women is internalized misogyny.
Also, she's beautiful. Okay.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
she's beautiful. She's not, she's bi. She's living her life. Like, she's just free. Like, they just
carefree. They're
yeah.
not, the average Black woman and girl is not carefree. She don't
Yeah.
get to explore her sexuality without a whole bunch of shaming, and she don't get to, your daughter went to school and picked up and moved to New York. She went to school. She's living her life as a carefree girl, and with all of the stuff that comes with it, because carefree girls make mistakes. They do dumb shit, but there's no heavy penalty.
Mm-hmm.
They want a penalty imposed because they're penalized, and they're penalized for blinking twice. I think seeing a Black girl, particularly a brown Black girl who looks like them, be able to kind of live a carefree Black girl life and make some choices that she may come to regret, but it don't utterly destroy her in her future. I think that can be unconsciously triggering for a demographic who, often has their futures robbed from them before they even realize they have one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot more going on here, than just whether or not you're a good mother or not. In the end, you're good enough that you could catch your daughter. You could catch her before, she completely destroyed her life. You could catch her, and that you've created a foundation for her so that even if she loses course, she can get back on it without it taking 40 years. She's not 50 just figuring out and trying to look at her life and say, oh, that was, she still has plenty of life ahead of her. And that, I think, is triggering for women who are not afforded the luxury of girlhood.
Mm-hmm.
In our race, girlhood is a luxury.
Yeah.
And your daughter, especially because of the way she looks, she looks like them. And they're triggered by the luxury of girlhood, the luxury of being protected, the luxury of innocence, and doing dumb shit in your arrogance and your innocence that doesn't completely annihilate your future. I think that some of us are unconsciously triggered by that. And so that's why they want to keep bringing it up, because they just want to keep reminding you, you're no better than us. She's no better than us. See? But in the end, what's going to always prove to be is that, her life, her young woman mistakes are not going to cost the next 3 generations.
Right.
Our young women mistakes cost our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Hers will not. And to be able to have that kind of freedom in your youth, I think is very, very triggering. And so they're going to keep throwing her up. They're going to keep bringing her up. 15 years from now, when she done went on about her life and is doing whatever they'll still be bringing it up. Remember that time, Crystal and stuff? Because because they have to find something that says you're no better than us. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like this thing of you're no better than us is so crazy, because what it should be is, why do I feel she's better than me, and what is it that I need to do to try to make myself whatever it is I feel she is or has and I'm not. If it's triggering enough to make me feel jealous or envious or feel inferior, then I need to be figuring out either how to get some of that, or maybe I should listen to her. Maybe I should figure out, what did she do? But we're so it's a lot more. There's a lot more going on there that I think prevents us from being able to do that. So in the meantime,
I want to say really quickly, Princess D has a message for you. KsC, you're right about young Black girls not being carefree. I had to be an adult at 13, working 2 jobs from 16 and up. I did not have a childhood. Oh.
Yeah. So
Another one says, Diva V says, my mother had me young and she would shade me every chance she gets, even even to this day. And she constantly talks about humbling me. It's weird.
You don't get to tell us what we're going to talk about. You know, you guys are so interesting. Next topic, please. This is the topic. You're just so arrogant. Just so arrogant. Next topic, please. This sounds like a personal conversation between CK and KSC. CK brought it up. What are you talking about?
No, no, but here's the thing:
when they're bringing it up in clubhouse rooms,
right? Like, and I am getting to a point. No, this isn't a personal conversation because everybody is talking about it, and I am telling my own story. I am telling my own story. Kendall knows me. We are friends, and the things that people are just discovering happened. How long? Maybe a couple years ago, 3 years ago. They just now finding that out.
But it is part of the story, because and that's why you just need to sit and listen. Because if we're talking about why it took so long for CK to reach 100,000, why it took so long for so many Black women to get a clue, why it took so long, this is why. Because all of these years, they were so busy trying to distract you from the message with the drama and attacking the family and the veganator and the this and the that. Like, all of that stuff was to keep you from being on mission. And in that, cause confusion and chaos and legitimize people not taking you seriously. So it is very much a part of this discussion, because it is a form of guerrilla warfare. Yes. So when people are at a disadvantage in war, they don't have as much military might, they don't have the resources, they don't have the strategy, they don't have the backing of a superpower like in the Vietnam War. They find other ways to fight. So in the Vietnam War, what they did was, these uneducated Viet Cong realized the one advantage that they had in the war was the terrain. Did Chris leave?
No, I'm here.
Okay, that they had the terrain, and the jungles were hot, and they were full of malaria, and it was, they were confusing to move around, and so what they did was they began planting landmines in the terrain, right, in the jungles, and then they would strategically hit the Western forces, take their bridges out, take out some of their supply camps. They couldn't just do a blitzkrieg, because they didn't have planes and stuff like that. So they had to be very strategic and trying to take out, the things that would, the supply chains and stuff like that, to weaken the opponents. And then they put landmines, thousands and thousands and thousands of landmines all throughout the country, and particularly in the forests and stuff. And then what they would do is coax the enemy into the minefield. Mm-hmm. And when they, not knowing where the landmines were planted, the enemy would come into the minefield and they would blow themselves up.
Yes.
And that's what people who are disadvantaged in the fight do.
Yeah. Should we call them, if they were the Viet Cong, should we call them the black, the Viet Cong, the Blacket Con?
I got a word for it, but I'm not gonna say here. That's what they do. So what they do is they can't fight you. They can't fight you on your terms. They're not. So that what they do is they plant landmines and then try to coax you in by triggering you, by talking about your kids, by attacking you, by trying to make you feel fearful. They tell you we're coming for you. They call your house, and in doing so, they take you off the mission and put you in defensive mode, where you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna cry and you're gonna say things. You're gonna be so self-protective. You're gonna turn into the goal is to keep you from sleeping at night, to have you looking over your shoulder, to be worried about your children,
to make you ugly.
You know what I'm saying? And then in your response to the attacks, you make mistakes, you get off and then once you do that, then they can say, see, she don't know what she's always crying. See, and so that's what they do.
Yeah, they do all of these horrible things.
Yes.
And then when you have emotions about it, see, she's not qualified.
Yes. So when they bring up which is why we're talking about your daughter, so some people need somebody to draw the line across the paper, 1 + 1 = 2. The reason why we're talking about your daughter is because it's an example of why it has taken you so long to get to 100,000. Because when they put stuff like that out there, people gonna say, well, what's going on with the daughter? They start looking into it and they be like, oh. And so they do that to discredit the message. And so there's been so much of that taking place over the past decade that made people question you, that made people distrust you, that made people be wishy-washy in their loyalty to you, and that allowed people to feed off of the energy that you were trying to put out there and divert a lot of the positive attention to their platforms. I mean, there are people who built their whole platforms coming for you. So all of this is guerrilla warfare. It is a war of attrition. It is to wear you down. So yes, we're talking about them bringing up your daughter yesterday on Clubhouse because it's an example of exactly why it took you 10 years to get to 100,000 followers, because it is warfare. It is an attempt to throw your mission off course and to distract you and to have you defending yourself and feeling protect. Anybody, when you attack a person's child, when you attack people's family and their children, of course they're going to be hyper defensive. They're going to be angry. They're going to say things. And they may mess up. They may speak out of turn. And just the fact of diverting their attention away from what they came to talk about. All of that is to weaken the target. And they were able to successfully, I mean, I think you will admit that over the past 10 years, well, I would say the first 7 years of your work, they were quite successful in being able to trigger you. And in doing so, get you off the mission, have you distracted, always fighting off different factions at the same time. And so that's part of the reason why it took you so long to get to where you are now, because the guerrilla warfare. So yes, talking about what, them bringing up your daughter as recent as yesterday in a Clubhouse room is very much relevant to today's topic. It's not just me and you venting about, your kid. It's a big part of the bigger picture. So for those of you who are slow, right, and don't understand how the bigger picture, that's the bigger picture. So but today's topic is about why it took so long, is to celebrate the 100K, but to talk about why it took so long. And this is why it took so long. And ladies, be clear. The reason why this is relevant to you, because it's bigger than CK, her daughter, the platform, swirling, anything. It's why you're taking so long to see changes in your life. It's why you're taking so long to make the decisions that you need and stick to it. It's why you're taking so long to act on information you've had for years. You're doing the same thing, or people are doing it to you. They're wearing you down. They're tribally shaming you. They're bringing up past shit. They're guilting you, and it's working. So that's why you're under so much pressure of tribal shame that you're not able to. You take 5 steps forwards and 3 steps back. You take 10 steps forwards and 12 steps back. And so the progress that you should be able to make in a reasonable amount of time gets stretched out 3, 4, 5, 6 times the amount of time, because the community and your family are doing the same thing to you that we are talking about has happened to you, to both of us, but more in particular, Chris, here. It is very relevant. So just listen. Y'all get so ahead of yourselves. You're not even listening to be able to hear why we're talking about this. The reason why we're talking about this is because it's bigger than this. It's what's happening to you guys too. You just get to see Chrysalin as a case study to see this is what it looks like, projected up onto the big screen as the macrocosm, but it's happening in the microcosm of your life too. And if take the same types of shaming tactics and telling you think you cute and you ain't no better than us, and well, you made this mistake, is what they do to justify tribally shaming you. So when it's time for you to make life choices in your life, you want to go to a different kind of school, you want to eat differently, you want to date a different type of person, you want to explore your sexuality, you feel like you're in the non-binary and you want to figure out what's what. You want to travel internationally. You want to do different things. Your family is always planting landmines. The community is always planting landmines to throw you off the track, because the mission is for you to stay back as the designated survivor.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
Like you have no choice but to do that.
And so that's the reason why this conversation is important, because it's a bigger lesson. I always when I speak, I'm always speaking. I can talk about just about anything, but to me, the goal is to always bring it back to the audience and to get them to look at themselves and see the lessons in whatever I'm talking about for themselves. And so what you saw, what you've seen happen to Crystalline in the last 10 years, and the reason why it took her much longer than it should have to progress to this point, is the reason why it's taken you so long to progress in your life in areas. I mean, Crystalline, we're talking about a YouTube channel for you, because Crystalline's personal life is fine. Crystalline personally is doing good, but it's her YouTube channel that took that long to reach the mile marker. Can you say the same in your life? Is it just your YouTube channel that's being held back, or is it your potential and your promise?
Mm-hmm.
So y'all need to be paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to this lesson, because it's bigger for you than it is even been for you and me, especially since y'all are younger than us. Most of you are younger than us. You have a lot more to lose. Don't you agree, Chris?
Absolutely. And I want to just read these super chats really quick. Mayhem said, I wanted to say I appreciate your messages on all platforms. You were the paragon of composure on Clubhouse, even if the situation was unfortunate. And T Negri said, I hope to win the giveaway. LOL, just leaving this right here. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. That is guerrilla warfare. And it took me a long time to realize that if they couldn't win the argument, because let's face it, Kendall, we know this stuff is true. We know it's true, but we don't want to face it. And to mention it, to put it out there, is to have to acknowledge it and then do something about it. And if you acknowledge it, if you say, this is what's happening, you're deemed as someone who hates Black people, Black men, the Black community, the Black movement. So you just really just feel like you can't say anything. Mocha says your content never disappoints. Thank you so much. But what I want to tell you guys about, so we talked about that for a little bit, but I want to tell you guys about something that happened yesterday that I did that was directly related to something I learned from Kendall, because Kendall really did help me be able to continue doing this work, because she was there to catch me as a friend at very vulnerable times and gave me some really good advice. And sometimes it was uncomfortable, sometimes it was uncomfortable. But one thing that she gave advice, and this was to everybody, she wrote a post called, "If you stop it, they will come." I don't know, Kendall, do you want to read that post? But that's something that was like a seed in the back of my head. And so when there was a lot of drama yesterday around me on Clubhouse because of everybody all of a sudden finding out about, oh, her daughter is imperfect. And I went into these places, like I went into hostile territory to try to beseech the people who are coming for them and saying, listen, I will be the sacrifice for my daughter. I'm here. You can call me every name you want to. You can say whatever you want to me. Please leave my kid out of it. Let her live. Let her just be a young 20-something who, falls down and gets back up. And I was called every name in the book. The mods, and I was in two different rooms, and the mods were both Black men, and they just let it fly. They let the women go. They let the men say whatever, and it was just a mess. And if you go down the Clubhouse hood hallway, where the Black people reside, it's full of these things like that. And it was very disappointing for me to bring it back to what I wanted to do on Clubhouse, was to try to bridge, to have some kind of understanding, where I'm not interested in Black men romantically, that's clear, but maybe I can reach the men who maybe can see us, who maybe can empathize with us. And I did find them, and there were like 5. And so when all of that stuff happened, the thing that triggered me the most to do a room about it was that one of the hosts from a popular room said, Crystalline, answer this question, yes or no. Do you love Black men? And I was like, I mean, I what do you mean? I mean, do I love like any old Black man down the street? Do like anybody, men I don't know? Like, just answer the question, do you love Black men? And I said, I love some Black men, yes. And everybody was, the peanut gallery was throwing peanuts. Do you love Black women? Yes, I do love some Black women. I don't understand how the community expects to get love from this forced familiarity, this forced loyalty and allegiance when you treat the people so badly. It's like somebody holding a knife to your throat saying, tell me you love me. It's just, there's so much abuse. Why would I love a group? And this is just on Clubhouse. So I'm not talking about Black men as a whole, but I'm going to talk about Black men on Clubhouse because I literally experienced this with the Black men on Clubhouse. So the Black men on Clubhouse try to force me to answer to, do you love Black men? Do you love Black women? All the while putting me in this vulnerable, unsafe, abusive environment. How many of us have been in these vulnerable, unsafe, abusive environments and somebody tells you, forces you to say, this is done out of love. Like, you should love us. Like, I don't believe in loving somebody no matter what. I don't believe Black women should just love the dude on the street, the dude that got around like that. No, I love the people who enhance my life, who show me love. And what I saw in Clubhouse, and we'll just talk about, because I'm talking about Clubhouse because it's a micro of the macro. So what I saw on Clubhouse was a group, a gang of Black men who did not like the statistics that I was putting out there, allow for me to be ravaged, to be pulled apart by people because they wanted to protect their image and their egos. Despite me always being courteous, respectful, I have never cursed anybody out. People know I am considered, like, I have a reputation for being very, very respectful on Clubhouse. And it did this to me. They did this to me. And so I decided that I wanted, because I don't believe that question was the thing that really got me. Like, you're doing all of this stuff to me right now. You're allowing all of these things to happen to me. And then in the moment where you were abusing me, you were asking me if I love you.
Well, I mean, that's the definition of love that Black women have been given and accepted. So no, what they're, I don't, you and I always have this conversation because I don't understand why, like, for you, you should know that that is the definition of love they have. So they expect you to love them no matter what. I mean, that's the whole concept of Black love. It's a struggle form of love that Black women are to remain loyal and to remain dedicated and to show fealty and fidelity to the idea of Blackness and to the Black man and his interests, no matter what. It's the no matter what part.
No matter what.
So of course, they're going to ask you in the middle of such an environment, do you love us? Because that's the goal. The goal is always for the Black woman to prove that she could take a licking and keep on ticking.
Yes.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So in that moment, that becomes the test. And so, but it's the same test it's always been. It's not a new test. It's and it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter. It just is what it is. So I mean, I've had a few rooms on Clubhouse that have had some guys in it, and I haven't had any problems. But I run my rooms in a very, very specific kind of way. And it's very interesting to me because I've had very fruitful conversation with Black men on Clubhouse in my rooms. If they're in my rooms, then the conversations are very fruitful. And even if there's some disagreements and stuff, a lot of times disagreements is more between the men than it is between me and the men. But everybody's respectful, because I set the tone. I don't put the men and the women on the stage together. It's like I got to keep them separated. But they know coming in that they, disrespect will not be tolerated. You can speak your truth and be as truthful as you need to be, but don't, watch your tone and your intention. I tell them, and we get along fine. We've actually had some really great discussions, and I've talked to some guys who was like, yo, they really get it. I've gotten lots of emails from some of them who have been supportive and have said, some of us really get it. So I have not experienced. Now I have been in rooms where they tried to do that mess with other people, and I usually leave those rooms because I don't stay for that. But in my spaces, I am not active on Clubhouse. My Clubhouse account is deactivated. So I know y'all keep asking. So let me just say, for those of you who don't know, I do not have public social media at this time. My YouTube channel is no longer in existence. It has been gone since 2018. I do not have an active YouTube channel. The channel attached to this account is not a business channel. It's just a YouTube channel I have so I can do lives with Chris. My Clubhouse account is deactivated. So if you search for me, you will not find me. My Facebook pages are deactivated. So if you're looking for me, you will not find me because that's how I move. I stick and move. I come up, I go down, I come up, I go down. I spent a couple of months on Clubhouse, but I'm bored with Clubhouse now. I watched Clubhouse go from a really great idea to a hot ass mess because folks came on that app and acted a fool, and now people have left the app or they've privatized their rooms so that, if unless you are already a member of certain clubs, you won't even know those clubs existed, which I told y'all what was going to happen. And so in essence, the Clubhouse has been redlined.
Yes, it has.
Clubhouse has been redlined. Black people came onto the app and started storming all the stages, accusing everybody of being racist, and brought all the woke stuff into the room. And so people got to the point where they didn't want Black people in the rooms, or they started privatizing the room. So invite only rooms, all of that. And so what is left is the few rooms that are still public, Black rooms, which tend to be, not all of them, because there are some good Black rooms, but most of them, I would say probably 5 to 7% of the rooms created by as all Black spaces on the app are pretty decent. The rest, 95% of them are trash. And so what you see in the hallway, if you're not in a certain algorithm, is Black dysfunctional rooms, some of the big rooms that are still trying to keep the energy going, and then a lot of response rooms to what has happened on the app. So there's a lot of rooms that talk about, the app has changed, who destroyed the app. I mean, they're talking in code about us. And they're talking about, there's a lot of lately there's been a lot of rooms about critical race theory, being anti-critical race theory, anti-woke rooms. Why are white people on Clubhouse being called racist? There's a lot of response. So there's fact. So in essence, there's a divide now on the app that's very tangible. It's very present. And I warned when I first came on the app, I said that this is what's going to happen. I did a series of videos, and I said, I told them that this was going to happen. And so unfortunately, it is true.
We did that though.
Yeah, we did.
This is the thing, like we do these things, we're very, very emotional. And then when we have to face the consequences of those emotional reactions and decisions, we become confused about it, which leads me to what happened yesterday. So I wanted to do a room telling Black women, I wanted to transmute it, and I did. Black women, I don't love all Black men. No, I don't love all Black women. I don't love people who hurt me. I don't love people who abuse me. I don't love people who don't want the best for me, and neither should you. And then there were ton of Black people, Black men, who raised their hands and wanted to speak. And I said this, and this changed everything. I said that because of, I said, I came to Clubhouse with an open mind and an open heart, trying to make connections with Black people who were like-minded. And that was not gender specific. I really wanted to make an effort to hear and be heard by a certain type of Black men that I knew existed. And I was willing to go in these places to have these tough conversations. And like I said, I found five, about five, and I'm not even exaggerating, out of the thousands, okay? And I said that from now on, because I don't know what to expect from you, because being in your presence is dangerous for me. It's dangerous for my mental health. It's dangerous for my physical health. It's dangerous for my family. It is dangerous for me. And since I can't tell who's who, then I am withdrawing from all of you, except for maybe the 5 men that I know that were upstanding. Everybody else, I'm sorry, but I can't trust you. I don't feel safe because the majority of you who I have encountered have made things very unsafe and uncomfortable for me. And it is for that reason that I must withdraw from having Black men on my stage. You know what happened? They started a room. There were 2 rooms that were started. The first room was, the pink pill is a cult. She must be stopped. Oh. And then I was flooded with Black men in the room. And I learned at the time, because they were DMing messages, they were trying to flag the room down, flag the title, because they were trying to frame it as that I was saying that Black men in general are dangerous and scary. And that is not what I said. I said specifically, my experience with the Black men on Clubhouse has been overwhelmingly negative. And so because it has been overwhelmingly negative, I am going to, for my own well-being, have to withdraw. And for the men who are already in my orbit, who have been cordial and thoughtful and respectful, even if they didn't agree with me, then they still have access to me. But for the rest of you, you have no access to me anymore. Then there was another room by a guy who, he's okay, he doesn't agree with me, but he's respectful, on, man, we gotta, basically we need to figure this out. Like, we need to figure out what's going on. And my DMs were full of men, Black men, who said, please don't leave. Please don't cut us out. Please, will you, give us another chance? Flooded with men who did that. I got a guy who did like maybe 7 audio files one at a time. So I withdrew. I said, listen, I don't know you guys and I don't trust you. I don't feel safe around you. I'm only going to associate with the people who, the men on this app, and particularly the Black men on this app, with who I know. And when I withdrew, Kendall, there was such an immediate reaction that everybody in the hood hallways of Clubhouse noticed. And
I think that's
sorry, go ahead.
A good exercise for you to learn, but I think the next step is to stop announcing it and just, announcing it and just do it.
Well, I didn't. It wasn't just that. It was that. And here's the thing why I announced it, because there was a lot of them in the waiting room and they wanted to come in to speak. And I was like, no, I don't, you are not allowed to speak. I don't know you. I don't know you and I don't trust you. And so That's why I said what I said.
Chris, why do you think that? Why do you think it is that, I've been on the app and I've hosted 41 rooms on the app. And that's not including other rooms that I've participated in. And of course, all the rooms I participated in are not Black related. I participated in other rooms too. Some of them have been really great, but I've hosted personally 41 rooms on the in the club, on the app. And I've hosted, out of those 41 rooms, I think I've hosted maybe 4 of them. I've brought Black men up on the stage, or men in general up on the stage, but mostly Black. I have not had these negative experiences. Why do you think it is that I'm not having those experiences when so many other people are? What do you think is the difference? What am I doing that's different than what other people are doing? Because I'm not having those experiences.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I know exactly what it is. Because when I host rooms where I have Black men up to the stage, it is on my turf. It is on my turf. And I'm very clear about the rules. You have to be respectful. You can have a differing opinion. You have to be respectful. If somebody starts to troll, then they're bumped off the stage. And so you have very clear perimeters. Perimeters or parameters? I don't know which one. One of them. You have very clear perimeters, and then it is on your turf and it is on your terms. And so when it's on your turf and it's on your terms, you can then be the final say with all of it. But for me, I would go into rooms because, and this is something that I mentioned yesterday, is that I go into rooms and I believe that listening to other people's perspectives strengthens mine because it challenges me. I know it's different for you, but for me, I have been really studying and trying to beef up my oratory skills, my debate skills. And so I like going into these rooms because it sharpens the skill that I'm trying to develop. And I do really well. And part of it too is that I also want to have practice on conflict resolution, because it's part of what it is that I teach. So in order for me to teach it, I like that trial by fire. I like to be challenged on things, and it helps me and it works well. And in fact, I have a reputation. Thank you, Themis. Congrats again. We'll be back. So I have that reputation of this girl knows her stuff. She's pretty intelligent. But when they can't win based on debate and oratory or whatever, then they go to the name calling. And so that's what happens with me. And then if I'm in a room that I don't host and that I'm not a mod, then if they go there, the mods, which usually are Black men, allow them to go there. And so I will, once it starts getting hostile, I will leave. One thing that I also do is that if I go into a room, so say for example, yesterday, I went into a room yesterday because they were talking about my kid. And for me, I just couldn't abide it. I just couldn't abide it.
But they do that because they want you to come in. So that's the landmine. They coach you into the minefield, and that's the landmine. And so that's what they're doing. They're gonna, of course, anybody. If you were to talk about their children, they would come flying into the room. So they do it because they know that that's going to trigger you. They know what it takes to trigger us, and so they do it. And it becomes very difficult for us to stave it off. And going in there and telling them don't do it doesn't. I mean.
Well, I was trying to appeal to, me, and I've learned not to do that as much, but there were hundreds of people in the room, and I just refuse to believe that everybody in there has no humanity. So it wasn't necessarily that the host would have that kind of humanity, but perhaps the people who were listening would have some humanity. And on Clubhouse,
if they had humanity, in my opinion, Chris, if they had humanity and they didn't want to believe it, they wouldn't be in the room. They want to believe that. They want to believe that. But I mean, you have to move how you move. I just like, just if you move that way, just know that that's what they're going to do. And
Mhm.
if you're using it, if you decide that you want to use it to prove a point, then that's one thing. If they're going to prove the point, let the other people see that they're going to act that way, but they're not going to change their mind. And if they had humanity, Black people like drama, trauma, humor, and glamour. So if they think there's some dirt on you, of course they're going to want to hear it. I mean, they want any incentive to not, to not take what you say personally, not take what you say as credibility, as credible. So of course they're going to, they're going to latch on to any room or any idea that justifies I won't even say it's hatred, it's fear. It's fear of what you represent. So, but I mean, it's the same thing as YouTube. This is what happened on YouTube. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. And so this process, and that's part of the reason why I'm kind of like, okay, well, I've been here, I've done that. This process, we've seen it so many times before. Like when people are first introduced to what we represent, it's the same process. Every single time. It's this disbelief. It's, it's the incredulousness. It's the, well, who is she? Well, let's see if we can find dirt on her. It's, because what you represent is threatening to the established order,
the status quo.
And so a lot of, and something else about that someone said one time in the chat under one of your videos one time, I think it was when you had hit another mile marker. Oh no, it was when you were talking about relational aggression. Sometime I think maybe last year or year before last, and someone wrote a comment, and I never forgot the comment. It was such a good comment. She commented at that time, I think you had about 50,000-60,000 subscribers, and she said that the fact that you don't have more subscribers is a way of relational aggression. And it's because a lot of women watch you, but they won't subscribe to you. And they do that as a form of relational aggression. It's a way of diminishing, it's a way of keeping you, it's a form of relational aggression. And as opposed to, we've seen other platforms, one in particular, and we know who we're talking about, who've reached almost 1 million people in a year's time. And a huge portion of the people who are subscribed to that channel are Black women. And so they're marking their stamp. They're putting their stamp on approval on that which they want to, that they want to enforce, and they want to reinforce, and then they are withholding it from that which challenges them or triggers them. And so, that's another reason why it took so long, because a lot of people watch you, people know who you are, but they don't want to give you the thumbs up. They don't want to formally acknowledge you. And that's a form of relational aggression too. It's just so many ways in which, that's what makes you hitting this mile marker such a big deal, because you've been working. There's so many angles of trying to make sure that this didn't happen. So let's talk a little bit, because I have my study tonight. So let's talk a little bit about the change that has happened in the 10 years, despite the pushback and the nonsense on Clubhouse and the foolishness. And it's unfortunate, but it really just goes to show that, Clubhouse, in the last 6 months, both of us have been on the app. It shows that it really isn't personal to us, because no matter what, on Facebook it was the same way, then on YouTube it was the same way, now it's on Clubhouse. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about my son or your daughter, it's not about your marriage or my singleness. It's not about whether I'm hood chick from Bed-Stuy and you're some bougie white girl from. It's not about us, because no matter where it happened, like no matter what platform we're on, it is the message that people are responding viscerally to, either to or for, right? For against. So we just saw a repeat of 10 years ago on Clubhouse in the past 6 months. It's the same thing. People, when they first are introduced, they say the exact same things. They respond in the exact same ways. They begin to engage in the exact same behaviors, the doxing, all. It's the same pattern, because ultimately, what we represent is a threat to the established order. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts about watching the change happen. We saw you did a video. Paris did a video.
Yes.
did a video. A lot of people did a video about that Godfrey thing.
Yes.
I just want to let me just say, I saw some of those videos, and they are spot. I mean, the way I give them props, because they broke it down, challenging that nonsense with Godfrey and really showcasing what is really going on. And it's but the way he reacted,
Yes.
that
was
ad,
so,
and y'all
yes.
have to understand, I am from that area. I am very familiar with that area. I don't know what version of history he's talking about. I am from that area. I was there 20 years ago when black men started showing up heavily in Brooklyn with white women and Asian women. It was a big topic of conversation amongst me and my friends. I used to go to Fort Greene Park every weekend with my son, and it would be nothing but black guys with non-black women and their children. I don't know what kind of revisionist history this dude is playing at, talking about there's some, Martians are landing, interracial Martians are landing in Bed-Stuy, and they're trying to fuck up the community. It's bullshit. So I talked about that on Clubhouse. But the visceral response, I mean, he was unhinged. He was spitting on the camera. His eyes were wide. And then from a person who has admitted himself that he himself indulges interracially. And so he was saying things that didn't make sense. They were contradicting. But it was almost like he forgot himself for a minute. He was just
he did.
raw rage and anger and fear. Did anybody else see the fear? Because that's what I saw.
Yes.
Talk about that fear.
Yes. And that was what it was, because there were so many indicators that there was fear. And what I really do believe is that part of that fear is because if Black women, even if it were a small number, because let's face it, the divestment conversation has them frothing at the mouth, doing, forming think tanks, and we got to figure this out. We can't have these divestors. This has got to be like, it is just the number one concern on social media. They're so afraid of divestors because they fear that if a critical mass of women withdraw then and go into another community, then it will then have a ripple snowball effect that then will upset the current order, the imbalance in relationship dynamics and the way in which Black women operate and see themselves in the Black community and their roles and responsibilities therein. And so there's this huge fear. And so in regards to Godfrey, it was a couple things that he said that really stood out. And the first thing was that he said, first of all, we started this, and we left y'all, and y'all mad. And that's the reason why you're doing this. And so you, and the people who were in charge, and he was pointing this, meaning that billboard, and the people who are in charge are also mad that we're doing that. So it was this ego that he thought that the reason why that billboard, after 50 years of Black men marrying white women, that all of a sudden they were just going to put an interracial couple on a billboard in Bed-Stuy because now they're mad. But it was so centered around self. The fact that he admitted, which I was grateful for, because a lot of times they don't admitted that they did it first and that they left. That's very interesting, because now Black women are doing it. Perhaps that's the fear.
Well, he said
he did it first and we left. Now, if we do it, are we gonna leave?
Well, I mean, he said
it. Do what they did.
He literally said it. He says, I can see Black women right now saying, I'm gonna get me a white boy. So, so what the fear is that the group, it's just the idea. The ideas are threatening, because the ideas are binding or ideas are freeing. And Black women have been bound by very specific kinds of idea around racial loyalty, around who is the enemy, around history, half-baked history, don't tell you the whole truth. So an idea that interrupts the programming, the regularly scheduled programming, can be very threatening. And so for a long time, the idea that you represented, which was bigger than swirling, it was about Black women opening up their life's options, not just their romantic options. What you and women like you, myself included, and those who came before us, what we represented was an idea. But as long as it seemed like it was just a group of a small group of women on social media, they could dismiss the idea. The reason why it's got them frothing at the mouth is because the idea is being sanctioned in some ways. It's being encouraged by the larger society.
Yes.
So for a long time, when you first started doing this work, they would tell you, and they still will say, well, you can want white men all you want, they don't want you back. But then now you're seeing all these images that suggest that maybe, you know, the idea is not as contemptuous to the larger society as they want us to believe. And so watching him, you know, especially since I know that area, I'm from that area, and I know the history of that area, it was hilarious watching him respond so viscerally, because this was not about that ad. This was about an idea that is catching on. And it's about two ideas. It's about the idea of what Black women are doing, and it's an idea about what Black men are losing. The idea that, you know, your grip is absolute, that the loyalty is permanent, that that it's one-sided, but it's permanent, that your womb and your love and your attachment and your, that it's a foregone conclusion, is being dispelled. And so they must find ways now to try to shame you or guilt you, or so the big thing they're always going to tell you is that it's a big clandestine agenda, and you're a cog, this is a psyop, and you're under the influence of the evil, you know, whoever who is working you. And it's never a conversation about, well, were you under that same psyop?
Right.
When you were being worked, when you were walking around, strutting around Fulton Street in downtown Brooklyn, in Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy, with white women 20 years ago, because I used to have these arguments with my guy friends about it, who were many of them were dating interracially, and they would justify it with me. I mean, big arguments, y'all. And I'm talking years ago. And my kid was little. My kid is 25. So I'm taking my kid at 7, 8, 9 years old to the park on the weekends. Fort Greene Park, for those of you who are familiar with that area, I used to take him almost every weekend. And me and my bestie, who was Hispanic, would sit and have these long conversations looking around the park, because it would be nothing but single Black women with their children, usually no men in sight. They would be there in groups or with the child or with their mothers or friend, no men. And then it would be the Asian women. There were cliques of Asian women and cliques of white women. And they would be there with their mixed race children with their hair flying all over their head. And the fathers would be there, and the fathers would be out in the field playing soccer, you know, hitting drums. They all had dreadlocks. And me and my bestie used to sit on them benches and sit there and say, this is some insanity. We used to have these deep conversations. So that's why I laugh at the revisionist history about Bed-Stuy being a Black neighborhood and what kind of message this is sent. First of all, Bed-Stuy is gentrified as fuck. Okay? And this idea that they're planting these messages, what do you think is more? What do you think sends more of a greater message? An image, a picture outside a subway station of some unknown Black woman in an image with a white guy, or being a Havana outpost and Malik Yoba comes strutting in with a blonde haired, blue eyed white woman?
Right.
I've seen that.
Yes.
I've seen that. No, I've lived that. So what was that an agenda then too? Was that a side too? You know, so it's like you messing with the wrong one with me, because I'm from that area. Some of us are old enough to know what went down. You know, I talked to the Hasidim who rang my doorbell. The Hasidic Jews rang my doorbell back in the early 2000s, wanting to buy my house for pennies on a dollar, because they were gentrifying. Y'all know they're gentrifying the city. They were buying up all the brownstones from the Black people. And they used to leave us notes saying, we want to buy your house, pay cash. And they would ring my doorbell. And one day I answered the door and I sat outside for 2 or 3 hours and talked to 2 Hasidic Jews about what was happening in the community. And you know what they told me? That they told me that the neighborhood was indeed gentrifying, and that there was a whole process to the gentrifying. There was a formula. And they said that you know the gentrification process is well underway when you start seeing Black men with white women moving into the neighborhood.
Oh, it's wow. So they literally
Yes.
will observe
It's called the Oreo
demographic
effect.
of the neighborhood to
They have a
see.
name for
Wow.
it. It's called the Oreo effect. He said because that one white woman elevates the property values of all the Black people on that block. This
Wow.
guy told me this in 2006. So
Wow.
Godfrey is full of shit. Godfrey is full of shit. Like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, dude, all that ranting and raving has nothing to do about you caring about Bed-Stuy, you caring about Black people, you caring about Black love. None, it don't matter. This is about you feeling threatened because of an idea.
Wait, Kendall, just wait a second. Wait a second. This idea is just formulating in my mind. Black men have been all over talking about the gentrification of neighborhoods.
The guy
Do
told
they,
me that behind the
if they
scenes,
knew,
he said, let me tell you what he said. What time is it? Let me tell you what he said. He said there's a formula. So first, when it's a Black neighborhood, the process starts with first it is, he said first it's gay people. No, students. Students, because a lot of times,
mm-hmm.
at least in urban areas, Black neighborhoods tend to surround colleges, right? I don't know why that is, but Black neighborhoods tend to surround colleges. So first, people who tend to, non-Black people who move into their neighborhood are students who are looking for lower price housing, right? And they're young and they're willing to risk a little bit. The next group are gay people, right? Because they are
Mm-hmm.
marginalized historically, not so much maybe now as what they used to be, but so they would go to where it was, the chances are they might be, they would blend in a little bit more in some ways in the suburbs or someplace. So it was gay men usually, and then followed by gay women. The next group he said were, let me say, students, artists. So students, artists, gay men in particular, and then Black men with non-Black women, in particular white women. Then after Black men and non-white women, it was the heterosexual singles, upwardly mobile career singles, who would
So,
then meet other upwardly mobile career singles and partner, and then they would start moving in together. And then they would move in together, save up, and then either leave and go to the suburbs or stay in what happened in the gentrification here is stay and purchase in the neighborhood. He told me once those couples started having children, they would start, he said, when they first started having children, they would take their children to other neighborhoods to go to school because they didn't want their kids to go to the school in the Black neighborhood. Then one of two things would happen. They would either start changing the neighborhood schools, right, themselves, or they would form private schools in the neighborhood to teach their upper class white children. And let me tell you something, I lived in Brooklyn, and that is exactly what happened. That is exactly, including the opening up of the private schools. So these Jewish guys were hipping me to the game almost 20 years ago. So I don't know what Godfrey is talking about. He's on some bullshit. But if you watched him, it was clear it wasn't about what he was saying. It was about what he was feeling. And what he is feeling is the idea that you represented and continue to represent all these years that has had them, frothing at the mouth. That, see, let me tell you what a guy said to me in Clubhouse a couple of months ago. Very nice gentleman, by the way, in my room. Why is it that when black women start talking about entertaining, in particular white men, romantically, here y'all come to warn us about how they're not perfect and you got to watch out for them. And I said, why all of a sudden are you so concerned? I said, you're not really that concerned about how we fare in our romantic relationships with Black men. You don't express all this concern about the outcomes. Why all of a sudden, I said, it comes across as concern trolling. Like you're not really upset. You're just trying to warn us away. I said, are you doing that for us? Or are you doing that for you? Are you doing that because you genuinely care about the welfare of Black women and how we're treated in romantic relationships? Or are you doing that because you're afraid of losing, something you thought is inherently yours? And he said, well, it's both. I said, well, do you care to elaborate? He says, to be honest with you, he says, you are, as Black women, the only thing we own. He said, the white man has taken everything from us. You are the only thing we've owned. He said, and if we lose you, then he has everything. I said, so you feel like we're the only thing you have? And he says, yes. I said, so then why don't you treat us like the precious, rare thing that you're saying that we are? And he says, well, we take you for granted. And I said, well, bro, why do you take us for granted? And you know what he said to me? He said, because we know you're not going anywhere.
Let me say that. We know you're not going anywhere.
That's exactly what he said. You know, we know you're not going anywhere. So y'all can do all that fussing and yelling and screaming and talking about we leaving and we divesting. Unless you actually leave, unless they actually see you, you know, leaving. And leaving is not just about dating white guys. The white guy represents the idea, but it's bigger than that. Leaving is you remove your concern, you remove your attention. You don't show up, you don't care. You stop protesting. You start engaging in other kinds of activities. You stop going into the soul food spot. You stop going to the comedy shows. You don't buy their albums. You start investigating other forms of spirituality. You're not sitting in the black church. You're not tithing.
Right.
Everything changed. You start you camping instead of going to the club. You know, you're not worried about having a big button and a long weave. You start thinking in terms of being vegan and natural. Like everything changes, and with that goes the culture. With that goes the backbone. With that goes the big mamas and the long suffering. With that goes blackness. So when he said to me, we know you're not going anywhere, it was literally what I said. I've been saying for years, if you stop it, they will come. The moment they realize that you're not going to just sit around no matter what, then they have to rethink some things.
Yeah.
So the idea that you represent, that Godfrey was foaming at the mouth about, that more and more, that the largest society is beginning to support and encourage. I mean, y'all see it. It's everywhere. Car commercials, Doritos commercials. Everywhere you go, you're seeing, and it's not just Black women. It's the showcasing darker skinned Black women in relationships and in pairings with white men. And so that's the big taboo, because what they have been doing all of these years in the community is weaponizing colorism, featureism, and texturism against Black women to say, nobody wants your dark, nappy-headed, big nosed ass. So you better come over here and deal with our bullshit, because nobody want that. And where the white hoes at, by the way? So right at the same time, and they've been weaponizing and capitalizing off of white supremacy inside the community to keep Black women loyal out of fear, keep Black women in a holding pattern, think, well, no one else is going to want me. And now they look up and all of a sudden they're seeing the very dark-skinned Black woman that they've been convincing us is not worth anything everywhere now. Everywhere. You see dark-skinned Black women are winning beauty pageants.
Percy the bag, he's the Black guy. He always says funny stuff. He says, come back home. You belong to us, Black men.
Yeah.
And he gave $2. He wants me to come back home for $2. Sorry,
I mean, was it 2019 that they had like 5 Black or Blackish Black adjacent beauty queens reigning at the same time? We have the pizzas. You're starting to see Black women in sci-fi. They never put Black women in sci-fi in the past. Now they got Black women in sci-fi and dark-skinned Black women. So we're starting to get acknowledged as something separate, an individual, the way Black men have been allowed to be in the media for years. They could easily be paired off with a non-Black woman. It wasn't always a package deal with them, but with us, it was always a package deal. And now that they're acknowledging us as sovereign, as something individual, everyone is getting nervous. And even if they're not conscious of why they're getting nervous, it's like a subtle change in the air they feel.
Yes. And they don't, I don't really think they know what it is. They think it's just because it's so easy to say it's just some white supremacy agenda and like to try to make sense of their emotions. But like for us, we can see beyond that. And Godfrey in that moment was just very naked with his obvious fear. And this is a man who is 52 years old and is not married. He's talking about the dismantling of the Black family. You don't have a Black family.
Yeah, these guys
I don't understand. It's like all these men talking about Black love, Black marriage, Black family. It's like, do they just want it they want the other guy to do it? Because it's like all these people who are talking about it don't have Black love. They don't have Black marriage. And it was like, do they just want other people to do it? I don't understand.
Well, no, they don't really care if anybody does it. So we were in the room the other day, and there was a guy. It wasn't my room, and there was a guy, and he was going on and on about this very topic. And so people were asking, "Well, are you married?" And he said, "No." And they said, "Well, why are you married?" And he said, "He can't find the right Black woman." And I said,
Yes.
"That's not true." I said, "It's not that you can't find the right Black woman; you can't find the perfect Black woman." And I said, and this was in Ralph Richards Banks' book, he talks about this as Marriage with White People. He said that the marriage squeeze that favors Black men, college educated, upwardly mobile Black men, gives them a sense of entitlement. They feel like they're the prize, they're a rarity. And because they're rare, they're entitled to pick the top of the line, best of the best. And so in the book, he says that, when he was interviewing the brothers, they were saying, in essence, what they want is the best qualities of every woman they've ever dated in one person, which is unrealistic. And they feel entitled to that.
They want the big booty girl of Latasha. They want the light skin of Keisha. They want the mixed textured hair of Wanda.
Right.
They want the lips of Teresa. They want the it's just they want it all together in one.
It creates unrealistic standards. And he says, in essence, and this is what he said, a Black man said in his book, that in essence, they are capitalizing off of the void created by the underachievement of other Black men. Since they know that there are so few Black men that are doing really well, they capitalize off of it. And so they feel like they can push off marriage. They can push off, the responsibility. And I said to the guy in the group, I said, y'all don't want Black women to put ourselves first, our womanhood first. You want us to see ourselves as race first and take all of these risks and be willing to do all of these things for the race. I said, but y'all are not willing to do that. You put your manhood first. Your manhood is what has you holding out for the perfect woman. If you were Black first, you would find a decent woman and settle down with her so that the community could benefit from your presence. The community, the property values go up when you have stably married, upwardly mobile people living in the neighborhood. The schools get better. Everything gets better. And if you were truly about Black love, you would recognize, because you are rare, then we need you. You should be the first to get married.
And they're the last. When the most successful Black men are the last ones, the very last to get married. Yes. Whereas other races of men, when they reach that threshold of 100,000, they are more likely to marry. And thank you, Nat's Opinion, for that $100 super chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I told him, I called him out. I said, if y'all were really about Black love, I said, then you would stop waiting for the perfect woman for your manhood, and you would find a good woman for the race. But no, I said, you want us to settle, but you have made it clear y'all not gonna settle. You want the perfect woman. And I said, in the meantime, you dating until you 50, and all the time, that time you are burning daylight on the youth and beauty of probably dozens of Black women who are waiting to get chosen, many of whom are going to end up unchosen, or going to end up single mothers, by default or out of desperation, or will just be perpetually single and go unmarried and unpartnered because you were waiting for Miss Perfect. And I was like, how is that community building? So while you're sitting in this room talking about us leaving as being, because he made the statement that anybody who's not Black love is anti-Black. I said, well, you being a 36-year-old man, college educated, gainfully employed man, and haven't found your Black love yet, haven't chosen a wife and started building a life with her in the Black community, you are anti-Black. They didn't like when I said that.
No, they don't like that.
Because they don't like when people call through their fake race loyal bullshit. It's like, knock it off. Everybody is not stupid. I don't know why. I guess they think all Black women are stupid because many Black women act like dodo birds, but I'm not one of those.
Well, so they don't want to. The beautiful lie is more appealing than the truth.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. And so, and I told them, I said, if y'all were truly about Black love, then the ones who were most suited to help begin to rebuild this community would be the first ones signing up to do so. No, y'all are sitting there worrying about how long her hair, and is she going to give you the biggest piece of chicken on the plate? That is not what community building is about. And the fact that you don't want to step forward as a form of duty to your people. And nobody's saying you have to go and find some crazy looking girl or but you tell me
to go eeny, meeny, miny, nobody's asking you to do that.
I mean, go to Atlanta. There's a zillion college educated, beautiful, professional Black women who are marriage minded and ready to go. And he literally told us that he can't find anybody. I said, no, it's not that you can't find a good Black woman. You can't find a perfect Black woman, and you feel entitled to one. And your entitlement is helping to destroy this community. So while you're sitting here telling us that we need to be Black love first. Where is your Black love?
Right.
Crickets.
Right.
Always crickets.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, that the idea that they're threatened about is that we're going to start thinking and behaving the way they do, that we're going to start putting womanhood first, the way they've always put manhood first. The other thing I called them out on is like, you hear Black men talk about the Black community, even on social media, but in the next breath, they'll be talking about, well, they're going to run through the low class women. They're going to run through, like, how
Yeah,
many
like when
Black
Trump was elected, what they were saying they were going to do.
Yeah, and it's
Remember?
like, okay, so on one hand, you supposedly about Black race, but you have no problems capitalizing off of the dysfunction of Black women and girls. So how do you not realize that if you are running through and the girls in the community who are then going to grow up and become the mothers that you later on complain about, even if she don't become the mother of your child, if you are contributing to her dysfunction, how do you then step back and say, y'all are destroying the community? You're
Right.
taking advantage of the plethora of pussy that is available to you because you are in a race full of desperate women who are doing just about anything to try to get you. And then standing back and say, y'all are destroying the. It's like, I
Yeah.
ask them, do you not realize that leadership, good leadership, is stewardship?
Mm-hmm.
That you are supposed to be the caretaker. You don't capitalize off of the existing dysfunction and then telling other people, well, they shouldn't
Of
allowed
your
me.
own people, of your own
Well, she
community.
shouldn't allowed me to do that to her. It's like, as the leader, you should. So you see a homeless person on the ground, laying on the ground. So because they're not able to defend themselves, you go and you kick them in the nuts. Like,
Right.
what do you say? And so the thinking reveals itself for what it is, and so what they're afraid of, that you and to me too, in a different way, but also represents, is an idea that Black women will begin to see our humanity first, our womanhood first, and not just our race first. And they're because that was the one thing that kept us hinged to them. And
Yeah.
now that if we start saying, well, you know what, I think I'm going to start seeing my womanhood first. And the other thing I told them was that you don't realizing that by demanding that we see the world through your eyes, that we see the world through as your interests and be concerned about you, you are effectively, if defeminizing us in the ways you later
Mhm.
on complain about. If you
Yeah.
could, because one of the guys was saying that it's wrong for us to be worried about money. There's more the money. And I said, but all women on this planet are concerned
Yeah.
about resources because they have to
Yeah.
think about their children. So when you tell us not to think about resources, you are stripping us of a fundamental aspect of womanhood, of the femininity, of feminine. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you do that and you tell us it's about love and it's not about money, you
Yeah.
are you are creating the favorable conditions for the mannishness that you later on complain about.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it both ways. If you want feminine women, you got to allow them to think like feminine women.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it was so funny. I mean, when I said I withdraw, I'm no longer entertaining this. They said, can't you just come back and fight with love? And I was like, I'm too pretty to fight. I'm too girly and pretty to fight. I don't want to fight with you.
But they will tell you,
Like,
but
yeah.
what's the fighting? Because the guy told me he wasn't married because he had not found the woman. So he's not fighting for love.
Exactly.
So we're supposed to fight for something they're not fighting for. They're waiting for the perfect woman, the perfect circumstance. They want the woman that's going to edify them as men, that stroke their egos and their phalluses, the pretty woman that their friends are going to be jealous of, who's a lady in the sheets, but a freak in the street, or a streak in the street, and the ladies in the street, whatever. They want this perfect person, and they're not settling.
No,
They're hold out forever. And
mm-hmm.
to get that. They're not taking one for the team,
No.
but they want
They
you
want us
to.
to take one. They want us to take all for the team, not just one,
So
but all.
what you represent and what I represent, and what some of the other ladies who are still here, many have come and gone, is a message, an idea that says, to stop taking one for that team, because there's no payoff, because there's no guarantees, and because they don't even respect you for it. And so that's part of the problem. So even though it's been a long time coming and it's been a slow boil, it's had an effect. And so you hitting that 100,000 is monumental, because it signifies there is an undercurrent that may not be at the top yet, but
Mm-hmm.
it's there underneath and it's starting to churn, it's starting to churn. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the community is, starting to become aware of it in ways that, like I said, I don't think some of them still don't believe it, because the majority of Black women are still all bought in, and there's a lot of wishy-washiness, and there's a lot of yelling and screaming about divestment. I saw somebody mention something about me being divested. That's not the word that I use for what I represent, and that's fine if y'all use that. That's not the word that I use. I use the word sovereignty because it is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But um, but they know that there is this ideology that's spreading, that where Black women are beginning to question, why is it everything one-sided?
Mm-hmm.
And so what's going to happen is, as that begins to spread, you start to naturally recoil a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and so as Black women stop being so available and stop being so, you're going to get you're going to get violence. You're going to get people, who, try to bite your eye out when you won't
Yes.
say hello to them, So it's going to be, it's not going to be smooth. And I don't want the ladies to think that this is going to be, you riding off into the sunset. This is going to be a bumpy ride for many of us who are going to
Mm-hmm.
get caught in the crosshairs as people realize, men, when they realize they're losing their grip on women, become desperate and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not going to be just swirling heaven.
No, it's
This is going to be a difficult process as the community begins to realize what is happening. And so you can expect more attack, you can expect more tribal shame, you
not.
can
Mm-hmm.
expect more efforts to try to either guilt you to come back, or to seduce you to come back, or to batter you into coming back, something.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it starts with the negative stuff first. It's like, don't leave because you're ugly. Nobody wants you anyway. Don't leave. Then it's, don't leave. You're a traitor to the race. And, don't leave because I said so. So it's always aggression first. It's never like, it's never with gentleness. It's always this lashing out, angry, punitive thing.
Yeah. And then once they realize that's not going to work, then they start,
Yeah.
then they start to try to guilt you,
Mm-hmm.
that they'll start to guilt you. Well, what if you don't do, you all we got,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
if that don't work,
If everybody does what you do, then what's going to happen to Black people? Well, do
and
you
what
ask
did I
Black
tell him, Chris? I
this?
don't care what happens to Black people. And I
Right.
told him the reason why I don't care what happens to Black people is not because I hate Black people, and not because I want to see Black people go extinct, but I feel like it's a choice. If you are willing to allow the last working womb to walk out of the door,
Mm-hmm.
because
For
you over here talking about,
wait.
oh, well, you were supposed to submit, and you should have stopped choosing thugs, and you willing to the last working womb, Black womb, to walk out the door because you were refusing to act like you had some sense, then clearly that's what you want. So,
Mm-hmm.
who am I to stand between you and your ultimate desire? If you're willing to see the Black race go extinct, which it never will, by the way,
Right.
but that's
Now,
the threat that they use. That if Black, notice that there was no concern about the Black race going extinct when Black men would jump in ship in droves. But now
mm-hmm.
that it's Black women, you're so concerned that the race is going to go extinct. And they always use this as some kind of threat. It's like, you mean the race is going to become the thing that you've been choosing and throwing in our faces for the last 100
Right.
years? Now all of a sudden we're afraid of mixed race people. You
Right.
love mixed race women. What are you talking? So, but I told them, I said, if you're willing to allow the last working Black womb to walk out of the door in your defiance and your arrogance, mumbling about how, well, we showed you to submit. If you are willing to do that, then the race needs to go bye-bye, because
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
don't
you
care
deserve
enough.
it. You deserve it, basically, is what you
You
say.
deserve it. You deserve to see your race go extinct if you are willing to allow every single one, every single one of your women to leave you, because
Mm-hmm.
you're unwilling to meet her in the middle. You're unwilling to put in the work for her. You're unwilling to acknowledge her value. You're unwilling to, prioritize her. If you are willing to do that out of stubbornness and arrogance, then you deserve extinction.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that because that's what I want. I'm saying that that's what you would be choosing if that's what you allow. So if your fear is that Black women are going to abandon you in such large numbers that the whole race is going to end, then what are you willing to do to keep them from leaving?
Exactly. Exactly. And it can't be some like war, like, if you don't, you better stay here or else. Like, that's just
No,
not gonna work.
you can't beat her into submission.
Yeah,
You got to make her
loyalty and love into some person. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially if people know that, and here's the thing is that I know that my circle of people who I surround is much more loving and supportive and reinforcing of me and give me the reinforcement and just positivity. Like I already know. So there's nothing for me to lose to walk away from that because I already know that the community that I have formed is a supportive community that I would much rather. I don't need the community like that. And so I think that if more Black women realize that, hey, there can be a life over the fence, you know, where the grass is greener and they mow the lawn and they water it and they fertilize it, then they're going to go that way. I think a lot of them are afraid that they won't be accepted. But like, if I can be accepted, you know, I'm a regular Black chick. If I can be, then most of the regular, I mean, it's so I think the fear is that a lot of Black women feel like there's not going to be anything for them on the other side. And so they still want to use that fear to manipulate them into staying. But they can't, it doesn't work with me. It's just because like I have too much of a circle of support. I have too much family, I have too many friends. Like that just doesn't work. And so Black women, if you're thinking about separating, you do need to have a circle of people. Don't be so afraid to leave a situation where you are, you know, like from my Clubhouse experience, I was in a situation where I was around a bunch of Black people where I was abused. It felt almost like when I was a kid and they would, you know, surround me and tease me and make fun of me, the way that I talked, I act like a white girl, all this. And it was so oppressive. And when I was younger, my need was to try to fit in because I was like, well, if they don't accept me, then what will I have? But it just doesn't work anymore. So they can't make me fear that. You have to be willing to walk away, stay away, and also have a supportive group of people. Otherwise, you are in this dysfunctional situation where you are at the behest of people who are whimsical, in which the goalposts for you keep moving, and you get fat and you get ugly and you know you die. Anyway, Kendall, do you have to go? I know you have something going on.
I can give it about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Somebody asked in the comments, do you, from your 10 years of experience, do you think divestment message is gaining more traction than in the past, or are we still vast majority of? It's picking. Well, I don't use the word divest. I'm not big on that word, and I don't think the people who, I know, Chris, you attempted to try to like kind of reclaim the word and give it new purpose and but it was weaponized against you. And of course they would. I don't think the divestment movement is really going to do what I think a lot of y'all are hoping it will do, because I think y'all are trying to turn it into a social justice platform. And you're not going to win at this with social justice. That's kind of the point. So I think it will shift the consciousness in general. And I think the dialogue will change, and it may make some Black women wake up. But I think it's going to be the individual smaller groups of women who are able to really employ in any real way what you teach and what I teach. But as a movement, I think it's rhetoric. I see a lot of anger, a lot of yelling, screaming, and that's part of the process. But I don't think as a movement, because there's no real leadership. And I know, like I said, I know you tried.
I'm like,
no, because the minute you attach your name to the minute you attached your name and gave that word a definition, the attacks ramped up. So unfortunately, it unfortunately, it I don't think it's going to do what we are hoping that it will do, but that doesn't mean that it won't have some good effect. I think it'll have some effect. I think in general, it is raising people's consciousnesses, making people aware. I think some of y'all are, you are acting like rabid dogs, and I don't think that in
Yes.
you act like rabid dogs, and I understand there um, is a part of this process that requires anger. The anger is what wakes you up, you
Mm-hmm.
know? The anger wakes you up. And so you need the anger to wake you up. But when you don't have the proper guidance about what to do with the anger, where to put it,
Yeah,
um,
just kind of circles in this nebulous
yes, you just
cloud.
start flying around. And so I see a lot of, yelling and screaming, going back and forth with people and stuff. And it's like, that's where y'all are going to run astray, because you're going to get you just stay so caught up in that emotional stuff that you're not really taking any action.
Mm-hmm.
You're just talking and yelling and screaming, threatening to leave. And a lot of it is because you're terrified of leaving, because the decision is only a small part. It's what comes next. What do you do next?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask anybody to give my email address out. Y'all are so presumptuous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have a different stance on divestment, and also I hear that some of these divest girls are acting a fool with each other. They're
Yes.
doxing each other, they're turning on each other. It's like, dude,
Yes.
like you
Mm-hmm.
can't, it's almost like no matter what y'all are trying to do, that default program always bubbles back up. And you end up becoming the very thing that you say you're trying to change, that you're trying to stand against. And so unfortunately, I don't think that divestment as a movement, the way some people are trying to do it now, it's going to be what they're hoping it's going to be, because they're trying, it's too much. You're trying to do it the way you're trying to do Black Lives Matter, but with divestment. And I just don't think it's going to lead to the outcome that many of you are hoping. I think if you can quietly, on an individual level, employ the strategies of some of what's being taught, I think you would do much better than to be yelling and screaming on Twitter or arguing with dudes in Clubhouse. But that's just me, but everybody got to do it how they feel like they do it. But I think ultimately and also y'all are telling everybody everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I
Yes.
think the telling everybody every single thing that you're doing is definitely not going to, it's not
Thank you, elegant lady, for that $100 super chat, and also for that $50 super chat from, I think it's Maestra. You guys are being very generous today. Thank you so much.
So, but yeah, so I think that, 10 years, 100,000 subscribers, I think that I definitely think the impact that you have made is much bigger than what is reflected in that number.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that part of the reason why we are seeing so much of this, kind of interracial promotion of Black Black women and non-Black men is because of the work that you've done. I really believe that is the case.
Oh, I know it is.
I know you've met with marketing and branding experts. I know. And so, I think, and there's money in it, upwardly mobile Black women, pair well with certain types of non-Black men.
Yes.
They tend to reflect certain kinds of values. And unfortunately they can't find a lot of that amongst their own demographic. And so they're going to find it where it is. And those, at least as of right now, those marriages tend to be more stable. So I definitely think that the impact is being made and it's reflected. It's not, the full impact of it is not reflected in the 100,000, even though the 100,000 is a big deal. I think it's much bigger than that. So, I was told very early when I started doing this work, don't look at numbers, don't look at subscriber numbers and stuff like that, because that doesn't really indicate, those are not the numbers that really indicate what's happening. I mean, when I was on YouTube, I never had more than 4,000 subscribers. I've never, when my YouTube channel was flagged down in 2018, I think I had just hit like 4,200 subscribers. I never had more than 4,200 subscribers, but I changed the entire dialogue in a YouTube gender war. So the amount of subscribers never mattered. It's what kind of impact. And I think if we're going on impact, I think everybody can look around us. I mean, just look at Godfrey yelling and screaming like a crazy person. It is clear the impact that your work has had.
Yes, no, exactly. I mean, I know that. And even the, No Wedding, No Womb that came out in 2010, I believe that there was some impact there too. And we went from a 73 out of wedlock rate. In some cases, 80% of college educated women, their first child was out of wedlock. And that number is declining. So it's happening. It's not super fast, but it is happening. Also, the rates of interracial marriage with Black women has risen 33% from a static number of 9-10% since the 80s when they started keeping track of it. And so that is a marked improvement. And that was just in 2015. Here we are 6 years later. We don't know what those stats are going to be now. I know I can't throw a rock and not hit an interracial couple where I am.
And the thing about, and this is what I said, and then I'm going to have to go. It's not even about interracial dating, y'all. And I've said this the whole time. One of the main reasons why I'm an advocate for swirling, as a tool in the arsenal for Black women, is not because I don't care who you marry. Like, I'm not even big on marriage. Y'all know me. So marriage is not a big deal to me personally. And so for me, it's not about who you marry, the color of the person you sleep with. I don't care. What swirling represents to Black women is options.
Yes.
It's bigger than the color of the man that's in your bed. It's the options of life that many of us never considered because our world was purposely kept so small. We were driven away from any consideration. We were told that's not yours to have. Don't touch that. You know how you know how Black mothers, when you go into the store with them, and they tell you don't touch nothing?
Yes.
That's what our lives have been like. Don't touch nothing. Don't look at that. No, you can't have no ice cream. No, you can't. That's not for you. And so what swirling represents, the reason why I knew that when I said it years ago, that swirling was the final frontier and that was going to blow open the glass ceiling for Black women, was because it is the thing that symbolizes sovereignty for us. It most symbolizes sovereignty for us because we have this historical, reality and a historical message of white male oppression of Black women through the slavery. They raped your female ancestors, they raped your grandmothers, and
Right.
that is a main cultural belief and ideal in the community for hundreds of years. And so there's always been this kind of barrier that told us that one act of choosing to be in a loving relationship with a white man was the greatest act of treachery that you as a Black woman can do. It would be dishonoring the ancestors because of what they did to your ancestors. And so I have always known that once we got to the point where we stopped looking back and started looking forward, the same way Black men have, by the way, because no one has suggested, there is no cultural ethos that suggests that because white women lied on Black men and got them lynched, that means that Black men wholesale to stay away from white women. That has never been a mantra in the community. We'll talk about Emmett Till, but we don't talk about the reason why Emmett Till was killed. We'll talk about all of these situations. We've talked a little bit more about Karen the last couple of years and Barbecue Becky and, Cornerstone Karen, but we still didn't say, and therefore you're a race traitor as a Black man.
The thing about Alive with the white woman was in Tulsa that, Black Wall Street, didn't that happen because of a woman?
Yes, but you don't ever hear anybody suggest that if a Black man falls in love with a white woman, he should not pursue that relationship because his great-great-grandfather was lynched because a white woman lied and said that he looked at her. Right. You'll never hear that, but you will hear everyone tell Black women that you should not go out to lunch with Brad. You shouldn't have catch lunch with your white male coworker because Methuselah, 5 generations ago was raped. We think. And the interesting thing is, so we want to mourn the rape, but we love the green eyes that we've all inherited from it.
Right.
We love the good hair that we can swing from that rape, but we want to. So I always.
And that's another thing too, Kendall. Did you see at the end of the video when Godfrey said, "And love to my."
Oh, your mixed race. You mean the mixed girl he's screwing? Yeah.
Yes.
So I picked up on that.
It was a smirk.
Completely changed.
It was the guy smirk. His attitude totally changed.
He said, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
Gleam
the
in
red,
his
white horse.
eye.
Yeah. He revealed himself. I don't know if he realized how much he left, how much he let his mask slip, but he did, and he tried to make a couple of videos, come back and bring in some other dodo bird black women in the videos with him. But it's too late, bruh. Like, you just let it slip, and you let everybody see the primal fear that y'all have. It's
Mm-hmm.
a primal fear, because what happens if black woman takes the womb out of the race, yo?
Mm.
If we
Yeah.
take the womb out of the race, then all of those tall, dark, and handsome Mandingo warriors that have been showcased for so many years, where do they come from?
Yeah.
Because black men don't have no particular love for their mixed race sons, except if they can put them in the NBA.
Right. Mhm.
So who's going to manufacture all the Mandingo-ness? Because you can't get that from a mixed girl. You can't get that from a Becky. You get that from Tanisha.
Yes.
So you
You,
want keep her around to breed you, and then you want to breed mixed race daughters so that other black men can enjoy
yeah.
them. Because the
Yes,
idea
I
of black
really think that
family,
they would love to do the whole sex selection.
yes,
With
ideal black family would be
you know,
a
it's like,
dark
oh, this black
father.
guy marries a white woman, then they
Yeah,
must participate in sex selection, so they must only have girls. Like,
yeah, no, definitely,
mm,
definitely. So the idea that you represent, that I represent, and some of the other ladies have represented throughout the years, is freedom for black women.
mm-hmm.
Freedom. It's the idea that I get to see myself as a woman. And it's so crazy because this community has worked so hard to strip you of your womanhood, and then badgered you, has now battered you against that, like literally, like beat you against the head, talking about you so managed. Why
Right,
are you managed? Maybe it's because you had us toiling and working in the goddamn fields, even after, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's because you told us struggle love was the thing. You told us don't
mm-hmm.
look for men with money, look for potential, greater brother on the curve. So yeah, so you didn't allow us to see the world through a woman's eyes. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what society a woman is in, even at the lowest part of the society, she's always looking to level up. She's always looking to see what a man can offer her and any children she may sire with him. I don't care what society on this planet, she's always thinking about resources for her bloodline.
Yes,
And when
mm-hmm.
you tell a black woman she's not allowed to do that, you are stripping her of a fundamental aspect of what it means to be a woman. So then when
Absolutely.
she's less womanly, then you turn around and say, y'all so hard and managed, where the white girls
Yes,
at?
exactly, exactly, exactly. It's why
It's
we
such
don't
a
want
mind.
y'all. You're just so manly. You're
Yeah,
not cooperative. You're
so
not.
I'm
You're
very glad,
not
I have
feminine.
I have mixed emotions, and y'all know I've been honest about that. I have mixed emotions about some of what I see going on. On one hand, I'm happy to see more and more black women. On the other hand, I'm annoyed because I'm like, y'all made it hell for us to be able to try to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how much I trust all of it, you know. I think many of us need more. We need to see more
Mm-hmm.
abuse, more neglect. We still don't believe it. That's why they're still asking us for receipts. They still
Right.
won't.
Well, remember you said, what's it going to take for you to see it? Are they going to have to start eating you in the streets? And then that news thing came out about the guy who tried to bite the woman's
I
eye
told
out.
y'all, trying to bite people's eyes out and shit. Yes, I think it would take for some of us. They would literally have to see, The Walking Dead for them to believe some of what is quite clear. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, the masses of black women are not going anywhere.
Right.
But as
And they know
more
it
and
too.
more, yeah, but as more and more of us do start to, and here's the deal, it's an
Well,
idea.
Dia V said, my father called me exotic. Dia V, is your father, are you mixed? You look mixed. See, that's what they want. They want sex selection for, um, for the men who are with non-black women. That's what I believe. Absolutely. I'm
Well,
sorry.
eventually they can have they can have all the mixed race women they want. They can get with non-black women. But what's also going to happen, and I believe is going to happen, is that as the cachet wears off for black women, and we stop focusing so hyper focused on black men, so will other races of women too. I think
Mhm.
black men really underestimate how much non-black women's, penchant for them was sexual competition with us. Ha ha,
Mhm.
we got your man. Ha ha, I got good hair. Watch me. And
Mhm.
once they begin to realize that we don't care as much anymore,
Mhm.
I think some of their that feeling of ha ha, I got your man. I think a lot of that's going to start to they're going to say, and especially since they're being turned into baby mamas too now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think
Exactly.
a lot of, so the idea, so Chris, as we close out, because I do need to go, as we
Mhm.
close out in celebration of your 100,000 subscriber mile mark, I think the reason why they must attack your daughter, the reason why they must attack you, the reason why they have to threaten to dox me and my father, the reason why they have to do that is because what we represent is an idea that challenges everything that they have known. And they're
Mhm.
terrified of what that idea can do. It's bigger than swirling.
Yes, it
It's
is.
bigger than swirling. It's bigger than marrying white men. It's about you opening up your mind to the possibilities of life. That from everything from what you eat to what kind of books you read to what how you spend your time to your interests, the things you pursue. I mean, all of that shifts once you stop limiting yourself to Black culture, to Black
Mhm.
men, to Black love. And it's not that you have to hate those things. It's just once you open yourself up, then you have other things on the menu to choose from. And Black men have known this for a long time, which is why they've consistently opened themselves up.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah,
and they know
and they
because
love to remind us that.
yes, I mean, even Godfrey said we did it first, which is so weird to have said that in the middle
I
of
know it was
such
so.
that's why I say I know do to slip and do go get a pill and sit down, get some
I
whiskey because
know.
you don't realize how crazy you're looking. But what they're realizing is that there is a level of freedom and liberation on the other side of the gate, and not a perfect life, but there's just options. And what
Yes.
the community works really hard is to keep telling Black women you have no options. That's why they love to say, "Well, white men don't want you. They won't marry you. They don't."
Mhm.
Why? Why are they so happy to tell you what you can't
Yeah,
have?
can't have. Mhm.
They're
I
happy
want
to
to
tell you.
stay over here, eat this trash food, you know.
Yeah, they want that because if you think you don't have any other options, I mean, it's sexual competition. If they think you have no other options, you're more likely to stay and put up with their shit.
Yes.
I mean, it's common sense, ladies. It's math. It's 1 + 1 = 2. And you need to stop assuming that when they're telling you all this stuff to frighten you, it's because they genuinely care about the community. If
No.
they cared about the communities, the ones that were best suited to create a foundation for the community will be the first one signing up. It's
Mhm.
not usually the 60-year-old man who's running to join the army. It's the
Mhm.
18-year-old. Why? Because he's most suited to fight.
Yes.
So the
Mhm.
men who are most suited to build these strong Black families should be the first ones signing up. But statistics say they're the last ones signing up. And when they do, they're more likely to choose a lighter skin or a mixed race woman. So much for Black love again. So
Exactly.
all of these college educated, high value Black men that y'all are all over the internet trying to figure out how to get one, they're not going to choose you anyway.
Right. No matter what you do, no
No
matter
matter
what
what you
size
do,
dress
they're
you
not going to choose you.
wear.
Most of you do not qualify. KS is right.
Mhm.
I'm not. He
But
everything
not
he
for
says
the
is not.
reasons that he says, but he's right.
He's right. Most of you are not going to qualify for the few so-called high value Black men in this community. Most of you regular, average looking Black women who are not, exotical, who are not, that you're not going to qualify. And I think y'all know that, which is part of the reason why you like those messages, to be honest with you. I,
Yep.
that's
That
a different conversation, but I think
we did a whole thing about it.
I
Yeah.
think you say you're looking for the high value life, but you don't really believe you deserve it. And so this confirms it. I truly believe that that's part of what's happening, but that's a conversation for another day. But
Well,
anyway,
we did a whole series on it.
oh, okay.
Self
So then good.
verification, remember?
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
self-verification, right? You don't think you're good enough for it. And so you kind of go to where you're going to hear the news, breaking news, what you thought is really true.
Exactly. It's
Breaking
like
news,
new study comes out that caffeine wakes you up.
right. So I think the truth of it is the idea is what is threatening because ideas spread and they grow.
Hmm. And
And
that's what they are afraid of us. Yes.
right. So ultimately they want to shut down the person who shares the idea. And
Hmm.
that's why they have to do what they do. But it's too late, it's out there. Now what y'all do with the idea will determine how effective it is applied.
Yeah.
My suggestion is that y'all calm down, especially
Mhm.
you young ones. because y'all are social justicizing divestment. You're yelling and screaming and frothing at the mouth about how you're leaving, the same way the Black Lives Matter and woke chicks are screaming about racism and capitalism. You need to calm down. Since y'all love making references to them so much, when Asian women decided that they were going to make a move, did they yell and scream about it on Twitter?
They just quietly left.
They just left.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you what I told them, and then I'm going to have to go. You can show them better than you can tell them. And that does not mean you just run. Listen, liberation is not just about a man. Y'all have to get past this thing of it's about getting a husband or getting a man, a white man. So you think just because you go get some wig or somewhere that now all of a sudden you're divested. You know, a black boy dripping in vanilla is not divestment.
No, no.
It's not even about, like I said, for me, swirling is not even about the man. Swirling is about options. It represents options. What you need to do is open up your life options, not just your bed. It's not
Yes.
the color. It's not just you open up your bed to different options, or you open up your legs to different options. You're opening up your mind to different options. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the idea that they're really afraid of. It's not just the color of the phallus that you're with. It is where you spend your money. It is where you spend your time. It's what you pay attention to, what matters to you. You know, all of your politics change.
Yes.
You know, what you find, where you worship changes. If you start dating a man who comes from Buddhism, you're more likely to entertain Buddhism. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you may all of a sudden be, I'm your Ricky, yo, and next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
the Baptist church, plate is starting to dry up.
Yeah. Yeah. I changed churches when I got with my husband. I sure did. I went to
Yes.
a non-denominational church for everybody, mostly white.
Yes. And so it changes everything. And so you're yelling, and the guy told me, he said, we know that you're not going anywhere. So the more you yell and scream publicly about how you're leaving, the more they're laughing at you.
Yeah.
Because they know anybody who's spending this much time is not divested. The opposite of love, it is not hate, it is disinterest.
Yes. Yes. It is. What is it? It is apathy.
Yes. So if you truly about that life, you're truly moving on, then just be disinterested. That's why I can talk to Black men and not be yelling and screaming and fighting. I don't feel the need to do that because my whole future, my life, my identity doesn't hang on what he says to me in this discussion. It doesn't hang on his tone. And if he understands, I don't care if he understands. I don't care. And because I don't care on a personal level, I can talk to them, here and there and have a conversation in Clubhouse or whatever. And we have good conversations. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't interrupt, and I allow them to speak, and they tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those conversations are more fruitful because I don't have any direct emotional attachment to the outcome of the conversation. I'm not trying to work out my daddy issues. I'm not trying to, mad at my son's father, so I'm going to yell at him in this room.
Right.
Like,
Right.
dude, and Clubhouse and YouTube and Twitter is not the proper place to work out these traumatic experiences and these pains. Y'all need therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So get your butt in some therapy and stop using social media as as some therapeutic device.
Right.
Like, ultimately, the work is on the individual level, and it is quiet work. The work
Yeah.
is quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest that you use the momentum of Chris's 100,000 celebration and keep moving towards the door mark exit. But remember, it's even bigger than swirling. That's why your pink pill is not just about swirling.
No, no, it's not even, it barely even comes up, really.
Yes. And so let me just say this because I really have to go because I literally start in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Ladies, make your love, your compassion, your time, your attention, your loyalty, your forgiveness, your womb, and your anger expensive.
Expensive.
Don't be coming up off your anger so easily. Don't let people feed off of their passion. Don't let people trigger you into always responding. Don't be always forgiving people. Don't be always loving people. Do you love Black men? No, I love my son. I love my father. I love.
Right, exactly.
I'm not walking around with my heart filled with love of strange Negroes when I can get harassed on the street by them same Negro. What I look like? You're not walking around loving all Black women. I know that when I turn on the radio. You don't have Bobo the Fool here. So you can't, so make those things expensive, but most importantly, make your anger expensive. Be slow to anger. Don't let these, because anger is a fueling energy and people feed off of, it's life force. Anger is life force on fire. So when someone wants to feed off of your life force, the best way to do it is to get you mad, red hot mad.
Yes.
So don't fall for it. And if you can't control yourself, then stay away from environments and circumstances that you know you're going to be easily triggered until you can, because they're feeding off of your energy. So if y'all are truly about this so-called divestment life, then you should be moving, divestment whispers.
Yes.
It doesn't scream. And I think a lot of us are screaming because it makes us feel like we're actually getting something done when it really is just noise. So what I would say is get quiet and get moving.
Well, thank you.
Lady, I have to go. Thank you, guys. Maybe we could do what we said we were going to do at another time. We didn't get a chance to do it today, but maybe we can do it in another time.
Oh, of course. You're always welcome here, and you guys stick around because we're going to announce the contest winners.
All right. So thank you.
How can people find you? Like they're asking how do you want to be found? You always say, "Come find me." So
I know, but I don't want to be found right now. You can find me by getting on my email list. I'll type my email list in the.
Yeah, you're a mod, so you'll be able to. Because you got almost 1,700 people in here, so.
So you send an email list request to my email list. In the email subject, put email list request. So in the title of the email, put please add me to your email list. That's it. And then in the body of the email, all I want to see is your first name, your last name, and the email address you would like added. Put that in the body of it so I can just copy it and add it manually, or I'll have my assistant do it. That's all I want to hear. I just need, please add me to your email list, your first and your last name, and the email address you would like added, and you'll be added to the email list.
I don't see it. Can you guys see the email list? Say yes or no. Are you on the account that you're usually on?
I'm on Blue Rose.
Okay, can you guys see it? Just say yes or no. Maybe I didn't see it. Because only mod. Oh, there you go. I see it. Got it. Okay, you go.
All right, you guys have a good afternoon. For those of you ladies who are gearing up for our 15 Laws of Growth study, give me 5 minutes and then I'll meet y'all over on Zoom. All right, bye, ladies.
Bye. That was great. We have some announcements beforehand since we need to. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what thing I want to do first. Let's do the contest announcement first. Okay, so we're going to do the contest announcement first. It is a live thing. For those of you who clicked the link and it was like 250 of you did. I don't know why only 250 of you did it. I don't, literally, I'm giving away 5 pink pill courses and there's like 1,700 of you on here. What's going on? Y'all are making the odds. The people who did apply are like, yeah, keep it low, because that ups my odds. Let me just do a quick reset. Now we're at 256. Okay, so how about I do this? I'll talk a little bit. So while you guys are still doing the contest thing, while you're still doing the contest thing, I will give you guys a little bit of announcement because I did kind of tease, and So yeah. So yes, this is the real Mr. E. Hey baby, I'll be ready to go in a second. And I gotta hurry up and go because my kids want to go bowling. This is the real Mr. E. And for all of you who've been wondering about my, like what's going on? Is she married? Is she not married? And that. So I am no longer married. I was the one who filed. It's friendly. We are still very close. I have a home that's 3 miles away. It's amicable. And, it was a good 20-year run. I have no regrets at all. We had a great run. We have 3 great kids, and it was great. So yeah. But I will tell you that much of what you hear about what's going on with me is inaccurate. So haven't, if I haven't told you, if you haven't heard it from me, people are just making stuff up. People are just making stuff up because they don't know. Okay. I'm not going to go into much detail, but I will say this. Doing this work has cost me. Doing this work has cost me in a way that I don't think that you guys imagine. And for me, I feel like this work is bigger than me. I really do feel that. I really do feel that I have a greater purpose and that I was born to do this. And when you take up things, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be roses. There are things that are going to happen. And so think about all of the things that people have done, to me, to my family, to my relatives, to my kids. I don't think you guys, for some of you, you guys can look and observe on the outside and just pop your popcorn. You can just look at the train wreck, and you guys don't realize that there are real people behind this stuff. There's real people. There are people who have to live this real life. And while I don't regret taking this road, just understand that there was a cost. There was a cost to me. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I want to say about it. I will say that, he's great. He's wonderful. He's doing well. He's got a girlfriend. It's fine. He's good. She's nice. We're doing okay. As separations go, it's pretty darn amicable. I gotta say, pretty darn amicable. So yes, this is the real Mr. E, and you will find out more about him. He not everything, because that's another thing. When I first got on here, I was too vivid. I was saying too much. I was doing too much, trying to prove, trying to prove that what I was saying was really what I was saying. And as a result, people use that information to exploit me, right? But now I'm with a partner who is very much a fan. Some of you heard him when he's called in, and he has a different type of mentality, and that you will you'll be seeing him. Like he'll be on. He may pop in and do some lives. We're gonna probably do some videos together. I mean, he's been telling me for the longest, put me in the game, babe. Take me off the bench. Put me in the game. I don't want you out here by yourself. Put me in the game. And so he wants to be put in the game. And he's just the sweetest, nicest man. And I have never been with, and it's just no shade to my ex, but I have never been with a man who has loved me so completely and so much. And I am very happy. If you guys have noticed how happy I've been, like that, that is, I'm very happy. And he's very much just a wonderful, wonderful man who just loves me so much. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys are like saying, well, what does he look like? He looks like Robert Downey Jr. He looks like Sylvester Stallone. He looks like Al Pacino. Like, to me, he kind of like reminds me of, gosh, what is his name? Richard Gere. Looks like Richard Gere to me. But yeah, so he's a little bit older than me. He's about 7 years old, 6, 7 years older than me. And he's Canadian. And so, with time, you'll hear more about him. You'll see more from him. But yeah, so you heard it from me. And so, hey, if you heard it from me, you can believe it from me. Everybody else is just making stuff up. And it's been kind of funny. It's been kind of funny that there's been all this made up stuff, because it's just so wrong. Let me see. Let me make sure my screen share is off. But yeah, so that's been what's going on. Let me just do a really quick, because I wanted this to be off the screen share. Okay, there it is. He's so cute too. He's so cute. Okay, so while I am selecting the winners of the contest, I'm going to play the song that I opened with. I love this song by Jay-Z, and it is so perfect. It is so perfect for this. Let me just see if I can find it real quick and play it again. God, nobody can play the tracks like Jay-Z. Like, oh my gosh. He is problematic, but nobody can do it. But real quick, my son is like, when are we going? My daughter's like, when are we going? We got to go bowling. So let me announce these winners real quick. The five winners of the 5 original Pink Pill courses are, oh my God. And the first one, I can't even pronounce her name. Kawashiana Karimpara. Like, I'm just going to spell it. I'm glad she has her email. It's KWASAUYA. Last name, it doesn't matter what the last name is. Anyway, Kawashiana. Then number 2 is Laya Hippolyte. That is the second one. The third is Toy Rocks. Woo! The fourth is Arnetta Kristen. Yay! And the fifth, last but not least, is Helen Meck. You 5 are the winners of the original Pink Pill course. I will be sending you a link to where you can sign up. Thank you, O Golden, for the super chat. I will be sending you a link to where you will be able to sign up and have full access to the course forever and ever. If you guys are interested in the Pink Pill course, you can go to getpinkpill.com, find out why it's so well reviewed and nobody ever wants it taken back. Wants to take it back. Okay, maybe like 5 people out of thousands. But anyway, I want to also say thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the super chats. Thank you so much for your support. And most of all, I want to thank the people like Vanessa and Mika, the designer, like people who have been with me for years, who have seen just all kinds of foolishness happen, who were steady with their support of me, steadfast and loyal. I see you. I really appreciate the new people. I love you too. But to Cecia, also to Cecia, I want to say you are just the sweetest, most wonderful. Thank you for your years and years of support as well. So many of you have been here just from the beginning and saw all of it, saw the victories, saw the mishaps, saw all of it. And you stuck around. You weren't just fair weather fans. Like you guys were around when I was doing dumb stuff and you were around when I was doing some amazing things. And so I want to say thank you to all of you. I love you. And even thank you to the haters because thank you, Luna, for the $24.99 super chat, because you forced me to really hone in my message and know my talking points and really understand my craft. So because you poked holes in things that I needed to dive deeper in. So I even appreciate you guys because you helped me get really good at this. So I thank you. Thank you, thank you. You're far too kind. All right, so congratulations, you guys. Congratulations to us for the 100K. Congratulations to the 5 winners. Give me tonight. I will sign you up because I gotta go. I gotta take the kids bowling. But I want to say thank you also for the super chats again and for the mods. You guys were wonderful. And of course, thank you, KsC. You always bring the fire and the wonder. So anyway, I will see you guys next video Friday. I think Mr. E is going to make his first appearance. You're going to hear him. I think we're going to just do like a quick thing. So that's going to be on Friday. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I